With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
There were new faces up and down the field last time out in round one, and new faces on top of the podium as well. As we enter here into round two, the question begins to linger. Who will the winners be, and will they able to be repeating, or will we see a full-fledged championship fight on our hand over the next 9 weeks? Welcome everyone to the PRL Monday Night Series here on RaceSpotTV. My name is DJ Clark, joined here in the commentary booth by Joey Tevin with our director Hugo Louise behind the scenes. First up on the night is the MX-5 Cup Series at one of America's most historic circuits, Laguna Seca. And Joey, this track, these cars, it's a perfect way to dive into the meat of our season.
It is a perfect way to dive in practice. It looks like it might just be more of the same from last week with Jameson Sampaio on top, but Laguna Seca always throws up a challenge. The sand, or rather the desiccated dirt, I think if we're being geologically correct, is always there on the outside, looking to bite you. We saw in the F4 race last week, it took so many drivers by surprise, and in an MX-5, it's a little bit better at taking some of that dirt if you stretch it a little bit too wide, but it's waiting to destroy you. It is waiting to punish you for your mistakes, and it is a very, very challenging racetrack in any car.
Yeah, it very much is, and let's not forget the fact that it is also increasingly difficult to get an overtake done around here, so it's, I think, going to be very, very crucial to get into good qualifying position. We'll get to that qualifying here in a few moments' time, but before we do, let's go ahead and take a look at our schedule for this season. We've already been to Watkins Glen. That was last time out in the slipstream battles that we saw there. Laguna Seca this time out. A little bit of a bull ring in Suzuka next time. Then we go to Donington, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, VIR, Mid-Ohio, Sonoma, Zandvoort, and ending the season at Road America. And Joey, looking at that, it is a very, very technical middle part of this season.
It's a technical middle part of the season, and it's kind of an up and down season. There's no real, consistency in terms of the tracks. We go from Laguna Seca, very short, very tight road course, then to Suzuka, a even shorter track, almost a bull ring, even though it is an F1 style track. Then Donington, high speed, S's. There's one hairpin that's good passing zone, but that's high speed all the time. Then over to Mosport, that's going to be high speed all the time as well, but even tougher to pass than at Donington, even if you are in that pack. VIR is going to be an ultimate challenge. Mid-Ohio always puts good races on in this MX-5. Sonoma, not a track you necessarily expect to see the MX-5s at, even though it is an American road course. And then another place that you don't expect to see MX-5s at, Zandvoort. And then we have to end the season on a place where you do expect to see MX-5s at, Road America. That's a guaranteed good race, no matter what cars you put on it. But in the MX-5s with those long straights, that's a perfect way to end the season.
It certainly is. And we talked a little bit about some of the new names showing up in the championship order. Let's go ahead and take a look there at it as it is right now. Jamison Sampaio having a commanding victory last time out over Bradley Holly. Kelly Greeno rounding out your podium there. Then it was Jason Larson, Christian Lesiak, Derek Putnam, Ryan Kings, Andrew Venaro, Patrick Calgill, and Ian Cabana. A couple names that we expected to be up there that missed out. Austin Bartlett Chase, one of them. Another name that I've got my eye on here tonight, that is Kevin Sandiego. Remember, Sandiego did not qualify last time out. He is part of the Dark Horse Esports team here, and he looked very, very quick in qualifying, so watch out for that name. But we also have a teams championship here in the PRL series. Whataback Racing leading the way over a single point there over Dark Horse Esports. I think a lot like we saw last season, those two teams going to be battling it out. Obviously, a little bit of name change there, but the drivers still remaining pretty much the same. Crikey Esports just a few points back from them, and then we get into the midst of the mid-pack here. Unlimited Slip, Derpy Playground YT, Sperati Motorsports, YS Motorsports, Apollo Racing Club, Pro Drive Esports Team, and Fossil Racing rounding out your top 10 here. And I've got to say, that battle between Whataback and Dark Horse, that I think is going to be one of the most crucial battles we see all season long.
And we can't count Crikey Esports out as well. They're going to be in this, so you know they're going to be there at the end of the season. They have Kevin Berquist, Ian Cabana, Malcolm Foster, lots of drivers who can pick up points. But Whataback versus what was Mini Horsepower last season, that was the battle to watch. Now that they're Dark Horse Esports, now that they've brought Kevin Sandiego into the fray, that is going to be an even more difficult team to beat. But of course, Whataback has Holly, last season's champion, and Mark Kalin, who's always strong, and Patrick Cowgill, who's always consistent and knows how to pick up good results as well. So while the fastest drivers from last week, who look like they'll be in championship contention, like Sampaio and now Felipe Senni, who's here this week, they're racing for one-car teams. They're not going to be in consideration for the team's championship unless they're excessively dominant. So those are going to be the big three teams we're going to talk about for the rest of this season.
Yeah, they most certainly are, but let's go ahead before we get into the qualifying action. Thank our sponsors for the day. First and foremost, VCO, the virtual competition organization, without which none of this would be possible. So a massive, massive thank you there to VCO. Also want to thank Advanced Sim Racing, owned and operated by passionate sim racers. Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on all ASR products by using the Precision 5 coupon code. Also want to give a big thanks to RaceBox Sim Racing. RaceBox offers mid and high-range button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are enjoyable and are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount by using the Precision 5 coupon code. Also want to thank RaceLab apps. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. Also, the Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products provide an incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. And finally, we'd like to thank NinjaTrader. Rated to compete against the financial markets, supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Well, with all of that out of the way, let's get right into the meat of the action and right into the heat of the excitement here with qualifying. And it is ABC, Austin Bartlett Chase, leading the way here early on in qualifying. Eugenio Polisi there are going to be behind him in P2, and last time's winner, Jamison Sampaio, in P3. Of familiar names there then in David Van Roy and Bradley Holly going to be rounding out your top five.
ABC, easy as 1, 2, 3, onto the top of the timesheets. That's kind of a surprise. There's still 12 minutes left in qualifying, but Jamison Sampaio put like 0.4 of a second over the field in practice, and now he has basically the opposite of that advantage right now in the race. He's going to cross the line, I believe, to start a new lap this time, so he might be on a second run right now. No, that lap time did actually count. It just came in a little bit delayed as 37.2 for Jamison Sampaio. far more on the pace, but still not 4/10 over the field like he had in practice. We'll see what he has on lap 2 if he can jump Austin Bartlett Chase from his pole position currently.
Well, and his fellow countryman, you mentioned him a little bit earlier, Felipe Sene, they are right behind him in 3rd place, running just behind Jameson, maybe trying to steal a little bit of a draft around here. We often talk about the draft on these MX-5s, and while there isn't necessarily a big, long straightaway to be able to pick up some of that draft, if you can just get a little bit of micro bits of it around here, that's certainly going to help you, especially considering there's not a lot of aero dependency in these MX-5s, and so you don't have to worry at all about that aero wash.
You don't have to worry about dirty air at all. The problem in traffic here is not dirty air, unfortunately. It is just the sheer amount of cars on the track. Right now in qualifying, there are 32 cars, to be exact, on the track right now, all trying to get their qualifying laps in. So while you do want to get a draft, you also need to make sure the driver you're behind isn't going to be slower than you and hold you up at the end of the lap, and you also need to be careful. If they make a mistake in front of you, that's going to be your run killed. But Jameson Sampaio has found an opening on the track. He's got nobody ahead of him, nobody behind him. That's going to be bad in terms of the draft, but it's going to be good in terms of getting a representative lap time with no help. See what he can do to the line with no help, and it looks pretty good, and it's going to be pole by 4/10. There's that practice speed.
Yes, there it is indeed, jumping over Austin Bartlett Chase and Kevin Sandiego. Remember, we said there for the Dark Horse esports team, that was a bit of one of the ones that when we talked to Kelly Greenhoe, that he said Sandiego last time came into the session late, didn't get a lot of practice, didn't actually get a chance to qualify last time out, but he was going to be a driver to watch out for. In a 3rd place here, I think he's coming true on that promise.
Yeah, last week he did what Garrett Cottingham did a couple times last season. He showed up at the end of qualifying, and his practice was in the race, unfortunately. He still had a solid race. I didn't see any mistakes from Kevin Sandiego. He had to figure out how to drive this car around Watkins Glen while he was racing, but he got a 21st out of it. So in a series where you only get 1 drop week, he still minimized his losses, and I think we're going to see him be a little bit more competitive this week, as we have. He's currently in the top 3. He's going to navigate through the final corner here. Looks fairly straightforward. And then personally, what I think is the toughest corner on the track, especially in a car with as little power as this MX-5 has, you got to get on the throttle as early as possible here, but not get a 1X on the outside. As he comes to the line, I'm going to do it again. Bop, boot, boo, bay, doo, bop. Where in the world is Kevin Sandiego? He didn't improve that time. That worked on Thursday. That gave him a little bit of a speed advantage, but not this time.
Well, we'll have to see if we can keep doing that maybe and help him along. Looking a little bit further back down the order, the usual suspects here that we've come to expect in the MX-5 series. Kelly Greenhoe running in 6th, David McRoy in 7th, our reigning champion Bradley Holly all the way down in 8th right now. Here is Kelly Greenhoe in that number 12 machine. Kelly looking for some good consistency this year. He certainly said that a championship was on the cards. That's not the way to take the line through the corkscrew. I think Kelly had a little bit of a mistake there, and he's going to have to re-rack and restack and try a qualifying lap all over again.
Maybe that was the old Laguna Seca layout. Maybe he's just a little bit confused. He's in the throwback Mazda livery. Maybe that's the way the track used to go. Actually, I think the shortcut was actually around turn 2, but that's beside the point. Kelly Greenhoe back in the pits. He's going to come out again. 6th place is, I believe, exactly where he was in practice. So it's disappointing, I'm sure, but it seems to be where the pace is for that number 12. So he needs to find his teammate Ryan King, so I don't actually see in the qualifying session right now, or he is. He's just around the back of the track, unfortunately. So I imagine Kelly Greenhoe and Ryan Kings and their new teammate Kevin Sandiego are all going to try and find each other on track here and try and give each other a little bit of help, because right now they don't seem to have the pace for pole. But if you can get a little bit of help from your teammates, there's Kings right behind him. Could be a couple extra spots in the books for both of these guys.
Yeah, exactly, and especially with as big of a field as we have here today and as closely compacted as it is, any little advantage you're going to be able to pick up is going to be massive, and it is going to be very, very crucial to try to pick that up. Greenhoe here following behind, trying to pick up on that. I just noticed, though, by the way, that our top 2 positions, frankly, doing what we saw them do last time out at Watkins Glen. Jameson Sampaio and Felipe Sene, they're pulling on into pit lane. They're taking it easy. It does look like the 81 is going to come back out, but Sampaio last time out, if you remember, he set down a couple of quick laps here early and then just waited out the rest of the qualifying session, very content and confident in his time.
I mean, when you're 3/10 over your closest competitor, and that competitor is also like 3/10 ahead of 5th place behind, I can understand being pretty confident with pole. And Jameson Sampaio, sometimes you want to get as many laps as possible just to get a little bit of extra practice in, maybe extend your pole a little bit to be a little bit safer, but clearly he thinks that he is more than safe and he is more than practiced for the race. He's more than ready, so he's not going to come out, I think, unless Felipe or Austin Bartlett Chase or even San Diego get a couple of surprise tenths out of it and start to challenge him for pole. But right now he's feeling pretty safe, and that's understandable.
Well, we watch Kevin San Diego right here working his way around. He is going to be directly behind Ryan Kings and Kelly Greenhoe as they pilot their way through turn 11 right now, bringing the cars onto the front straightaway. This is one of those areas where that draft can come into play here a little bit as they run. Kevin crosses over the line there. That doesn't look like an improvement for San Diego. I'm actually not even sure if that lap time counted for him. May have been a little bit of an off track. We jump up here to Kelly Greenhoe, currently 6th in the standings, leading this train of cars right now. Kelly trying to drive that car down through turn 4. Let's see how he's able to take it. Looks like some pretty good lines there, but it's all about momentum in these MX-5s. You cannot scrub too much speed in this infield section or indeed rising your way up the hill.
Especially with all of these elevation changes. Right here at turn 5, this is one of the most important corners in the track, and unfortunately, Kelly just completely overcooked it, tried to take a little bit too much speed, and the second you make that little mistake, you're not only trying to recover the throttle, trying to keep it from going off the track, you're also going uphill, which just kills your momentum even more. And now up here through turn 6, Ryan Kings is going to have to back out of it because of Kelly's mistake. Kevin San Diego, though, their third teammate's going to go through. He's going to take over the head of this line. I don't think he got held up there. I think his teammates backed out in time. But Kelly Greenhoe was trying to help out Ryan Kings. He ended up killing both of their laps, and now they're both going to have to try and get help from Kevin San Diego as he leads the teammate train now.
Yes, they are. San Diego leading the way there, going down the corner there through turn 10, a sweeping corner, and again, down into this low-speed hairpin that does constitute turn 11. Again, just about getting that momentum there through that corner. Looks like a pretty good line for the number 88. He's going to bring that car out, and let's see if he's able to improve there. Yes, just slightly he is, and that's going to bring him up into 2nd place.
That's a good lap from Kevin. That's a very good lap from Kevin. Still, I don't think good enough to worry Jameson Sampaio back out onto the track, but being on the front row is going to be very, very important. If you're going to beat Jameson, you're going to have to beat him on the start somehow. You're going to have to find a way by on lap 1, because at Watkins Glen last week, Bradley Holly kept him company for a little bit, and then Jameson just checked out. I think it was something like a 6 or 7 second lead by the end of the race that Bradley Holly was not able to bring down. So I'm sure Kevin's going to be thinking about lap 1 here, trying to take advantage of any little mistake by Sampaio. Felipe Senni's been knocked off the front row now. His job is to find 0.5 tenth of a second on track. He's not going to get any draft help unless one of these lap cars help him out, but he's probably got the speed to beat Kevin San Diego. He's only got 3 minutes to extract it, though.
You can see that rotation there working its way up through the corner. Also want to give some credit there to Jerome Stanton, who piloted his way up through the order there, up into a P12 position. And now, as we watch Senni working his way around here, that's going to be Kevin Berquist for Crikey Esports right up ahead of him. Ooh, big clobber of that inside sausage curb. You know, that's not nearly as much of a problem here as if you were running in the GT3s or even the GT4s. These suspensions pretty supple here in these MX-5s, but getting those 2 tires up into the air, that does cost you just a little bit of time.
Yeah, just thinking about basic physics. You know, if you're driving a 4-wheeled car, you can't really be faster when there's 2 wheels on the racetrack. So that's why we always try and, minimize our curb hits. They're so attractive, those big sausages, though. We always want to hit them. We always want to bounce over them. But unfortunately, they kill us when we run over them. And Felipe Senni's still running a solid lap. He got a teensy little bit of draft from Kevin Bergquist, who would have been a pretty good driver to follow if you're to follow anybody around the track. But Kevin got out of the way, gave Felipe his own clean track here. So if he did get any help, it's only going to be about a couple hundredths of a second. But that is all he needs to jump Kevin Sandiego through the final corner. Looks pretty good. He might steal a little bit of extra draft from Mark Kalin to the line. He's probably going to be too far back. But at least on raw speed, this has been a solid lap from Felipe. Not solid enough, though. Still 3/10 down.
Yeah, 3/10 off that time, and with only about a minute and a half left to go here. Time's certainly running out for these drivers. Time's being set at about 1 minute 36. So I've got to think there to the Forceni, this is going to be his last lap. We watch Austin Bartlett Chase here working his way around right now down through the final couple of corners. I believe that was Bradley Holly getting out of the way for ABC as he now brings the car down into turn 11. Nice unclocking of the steering wheel there, being able to bring it out. He was setting a personal best there through sector 2. Let's see if that's going to be an improvement for Bartlett Chase. It doesn't look to be, and indeed I think that lap was actually invalidated, but Bartlett Chase will get one more crack at the apple. Let's see here what the 43 can do. Ryan King's wringing the neck of that number 43.
As he always does through the final corner, and he wrings the neck a little bit too much. We talked about unclocking the steering wheel on that onboard we saw earlier, and Ryan King's can't really unclock it because he hopped the curb and the car instantly went spinning around. So he's going to start P10. Mark Kalin, another driver who loves to wring the neck of the Miata, he rolls it around too. A lot of drivers struggling here in these final laps. They're trying to get every last tenth out of this thing. And I've never seen so many MX-5 spins. That doesn't bode well for the race if drivers are getting especially loose on these setups this week, but hopefully they have it figured out by then. David Van Roy is going to go through the corner that's caught everybody else out soon. Looks straightforward up through turn 6, but he dips it off in the gravel a little bit, or the desiccated dirt rather, on the outside. That's going to kill his run up to the top of the corkscrew, but it's his final run. Let's see if he can advance from 8th.
He did set a personal best there through the second sector of the lap. Not seeing an improvement through sector 3 necessarily, but that doesn't mean he can't gain it up here through 4 and 5. Let's see what he's able to do as he clocks over that timing and scoring loop. It's going to be a 16.69. That is a relatively quick time there through that 4th sector. Let's see if he's going to be able to get this final corner right. Again, just trying to carry as much momentum as possible there, counteracting the lack of overall horsepower in these MX-5s. Checkered flag in the air for qualifying, so this is going to be Van Roy's final shot. Not going to be able to improve there. He's going to stay where he is with a 138 flat. Here is Kyle Herlitzky as he brings the car now down through the number 22, currently down in 25th position. He set a personal best through sector 3 and sector 4, so this could be an improvement here for the number 22. Good line there out of the final corner. Let's see what he's got. He is going to bring that car onto full power here, getting ready to cross over the start-finish line, and there he goes. Is that going to be an improvement? Up 2 positions, up into 23rd. That's going to be Herlitzky coming to a halt right there, and I think that is going to be just about ready to bring us over to our starting grid here today as we just wait for the session to officially click over. But a good run from these drivers all around, and it's really pretty fantastic to see 3 new names up at the top of the charts in Sampaio, Sandiego, and Senni there. Really, really good to be able to see some new blood into the series. Our defending champion, Bradley Holly, all the way back down to 9th. Joey, that's a little bit of a surprise.
It is a little bit of a surprise, but he was 2nd last week. He was still up there last week at Watkins Glen. This week at Laguna Seca, though, something's not going right in Whataback world. Bradley Holly only 9th, Mark Kalin only 16th. They've got some work to do in the race. David Van Roy, I believe, is the driver who's still holding us up here. He's going for one more lap. I don't think this is going to count. I don't think he crossed the line with a second to go in qualifying or anything, but David Van Roy, DVR, records a lap that is like 1/100th of a second faster, but I don't think it actually counts. I think he's been on track too late.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And with that, the session will officially tick over. So now let's go ahead and run you through that starting grid for today as we get ready for a standing start. Jamison Sampaio will line up in pole position, followed by Kevin Sandiego, Felipe Senna, and Austin Bartlett Chase in row 2. Eugenio Polizzi there in P5, followed by Andrew Sharp. Then it's going to be the Dark Horse Esports driver of Kelly Greeno and the privateer of David Van Roy behind them. 9th place will be Bradley Holly, followed by his oftentimes sparring partner of Ryan Kings, Ian Cabana, and Michael Chase lining up behind them. Jerome Stanton will be 13th, followed by Frank Klein, Kevin Berquist, and Mark Kalin behind them. Andrew Vernaro and Josh Kimbrell will be in the row behind them, with Pierre Robitaille in P19 and Matthew St. Aubin rounding out the top 20. It's going to be Jeff Parsons in 21, followed by Patrick Cowgill, Kyle Herlitzky, able to gain a couple of positions there at the end, and then in 25th, it'll be Pete Thomas and Nathan Miller. Jason Larson's 27th, followed by Robert Gallinotto. Jeff Besnard will be 29th, and David Atwell will be 30th. Guillaume Hiard will be in 31st, William Lee 32nd, and Pete Bledon, your final driver here on the grid. Bledon not able to set a time. Joey, very quickly here before we get all these cars on the grid, what are you going to be watching for?
Beat Jamison Sampaio off the start, Kevin Sandiego. That's your one job. Force him into a mistake in turn 1, send it to the inside, because that's your only hope of preventing him from checking off into the sunset here, I think. And I think Kevin knows that. I think Felipe Senni behind knows that. I think even Austin Bartlett Chase knows that. Turn 1's going to be critical here.
Turn 1's going to be very, very critical. Oftentimes a flashpoint here at Laguna Seca. Going down into that Andretti hairpin, it can lead to some very, very rough running. But as we wait for the lights to come up here, looks like we're waiting for just 2 more drivers to get their way onto the grid. Jeff Besnard, as he is now onto the grid, waiting for Pete Bledon at the back of the field. Remember, Bledon did not set a time, so this may be not ready there for him. But lights come on, and here we go. And there goes the green. We are racing here in Laguna Seca. Good start there from Sampaio. Sandiego with a little bit of wheel spin. That's going to allow for Senni to maybe try to get a little bit of an attack there behind. We're 2 by 2 back for 5th place between Bartlett, Chase, and Polizzi there as they dive down into the corner. Everybody fanning themselves out there. Kevin Sandiego already trying to look for a little bit of a defensive, offensive move going down into turn 1. The first 3 are in single file order. A couple of 2 wide there as they go through the Andretti hairpin, but it looks like the majority of the field able to get through nice and cleanly.
The entirety of the field very, very respectful. Turn 1 can be a pinch point. Sometimes we see 3 or 4 wide through there, but everybody gave each other the room. They fanned out. We might go 3 wide here, though, through turn 4. Everybody makes it through, though, at the back of the field. Looks like Kelly Greenho in the background has clipped the dirt on the outside. David Van Roy's trying to fan it out 3 wide into turn 5. It's getting a little bit crazy at the center of the field, but as always, respect given on lap 1, and everybody's still rolling because of it.
Yeah, that's Andrew Sharp. They're way down to the inside. The YS Motorsports machine trying to make a move on the Dark Horse Esports teammates. That's not going to play out. David Van Roy now going to try to take a little bit of an advantage there on Andrew Sharp as they make their way up the Ray Hall Straight and down into the infamous corkscrew for the first time. Are we going to see a flashpoint here as drivers get onto the heavy braking zone? Yes, we are. That is Van Roy been taken out, and I believe that's Ian Cabana.
Ian Cabana went barreling in there, and you have to imagine that he clipped the outside of the track. You have to imagine that, because there's no way a driver normally misses his braking zone by that much. And every time you see something like that, every time you see a driver just barreling into somebody on lap 1, it's always unfortunate, but it's always just kind of an unforced error. David Atwell makes an unforced error around the bottom of the hill, turns it around in traffic. Looks like there's no damage for him, though.
Yeah, no damage for him. I also saw, I believe, ABC having a little bit of problems there, spinning up the wheels coming off of turn 11. And Patrick Cowgill also having some problems there off at final corner. That's going to see Cowgill drop all the way down the order into 28th position as they roll. Working their way through. Here's Mark Kalin trying to find his way up through the field a little bit as we work our way through the field there. That was the 978 you saw of Josh Kimball trying to see what he is able to do. Up at the front of the field, it is unchanged for the top 4. We've got another incident there. That's Nathan Miller and Anthony Cortina.
And that is a destroyed MX-5 for Anthony Cortina. That must have been a massive hit. That left front wheel is not really a wheel anymore. It's a little bit of a tricycle MX-5 now. Still looks like it's driving pretty well. Luckily for him, that wheel appears to be off the ground, so he's going to be able to drive this thing back to the pits, but he must have taken a huge hit to the left side there.
Yeah, that must have been a pretty big thwack there, and indeed he's going to pull that off to the side and take a tow. But the battle I want to bring your attention to right now that looks like it's heating up is the battle for P4 right now. That is Austin Bartlett Chase getting chased down here by Bradley Holly with Eugenio Polizzi right there behind. This is a three-way battle. Holly making up good ground at the start of the race. He is up 4 from the drop of the green flag.
And Eugenio was ahead of this train, but he made a little mistake up at turn 5, or turn 6 rather, as is so easy to do. Fell back behind Austin Bartlett Chase, fell back behind Bradley Holly as well. So he's a driver looking to move his way forward, but let's take a look at what happened to Ian Cabana. Did he do what I thought? He actually got a little bit of help from behind, and David Van Roy, an innocent bystander, just gets absolutely destroyed on lap 1. Again, that happened to him last season from a good position as well.
Yeah, it did, and I believe that was one of the Fossil Racing.
Oh, Holly.
Who it is? That's Holly. That is Holly around. Oh, my goodness. That is not something I think we have said for better part of a year. Bradley Holly making an error and sending that car
spinning. And Kalen, too. Both Wannabacks go around.
That is a rough corner there for Wannaback Racing. My goodness gracious, Holly and Kalen both spinning around there and sending them down in the order. Kalen's going to be all the way down in 21st position. Holly's going to lose a bunch of spots and be down in 12th.
Is that a coincidence, or is that a sign of a common setup between those two cars that's very, very spinny? I don't know. It's very early in the race, though, for the tires to be falling apart like that. Kalen's going to throw it off the road again into the sand on the outside of the track, and he's just getting swallowed up here. Jeff Baynard, and they take each other out.
That's Besnard and Huard there as they went down into the corner, trying to be a little bit greedy going up into turn 5, it looked like, and that just took the both of them out. Let's take a look at this. Kalen moved a little bit there, I have to say, but I also think the 48 may have had a little bit to do with it as well. I think both of those cars turned into each other.
Yeah, they all just kind of met in the middle there. Two similar liveries on the cars of Huard and Baynard. I don't know if they're teammates. They haven't registered as teammates if they are, but unfortunate for both of them. Just trying to take advantage of Mark Kalen's mistake, and Mark Kalen ends up taking advantage of their mistake. Speaking of mistakes, the one that kicked it all off was Bradley Holly, just getting a little bit of oversteer on the entry to the corner, and the car just loops around. Exact same thing for Mark Kalen almost. Just in the center of the corner, it was a little bit different. He was trying to get to the inside of Frank Klein, and I think just slowed the car down a little bit too much and pendulumed it around. But two Wannabach cars, two Wannabach Miatas, both going around in the same place. Hopefully that setup's not too evil, and Frank Klein now is in the wall.
Oh, and big damage there to the front of that number 52. That is going to be coming down the hill, I believe. Very, very rough going here, as we have already had quite a few retirements here. Besnard, Cortina, Van Roy, Bladon, and Klein all in pit lane here at this point, as attrition proving to be one of the biggest sticking points here in this series thus far. Let's take another look here. Oh, Klein, that was all his own doing. Just got off into the dirt and couldn't get any grip on the right-hand side of that car.
Yeah, it's gotten the throttle a little bit too early, which you want to do there in turn 2. You want to get on the throttle as early as possible, but it was too early, and Frank Klein just clipped the sand hard into the wall. I said at the beginning of this race that Laguna Seca bites, and it bites hard, and it is proving me correct in the first 7 minutes of this race. One mistake, and you're losing a ton of spots. Almost another mistake from Polizzi there as he's battling with Kelly Greenhoe. Who's going to be the next driver to throw it off the road? Ryan King's almost did behind. Polizzi's clearly under pressure. This is a pressure cooker of a track.
It certainly is, and here we ride on board with Kelly Greenhoe, who's going to be getting a big heaping of the draft here, coming down the straightaway in through the kink that makes up turn 1, going down into the Andretti hairpin, trying to see if he's going to get a little bit of a look to the inside. He's not going to get it. He's going to be forced to stay in line. A little bit of twitchiness there, both from Polizzi and from Greenhoe as they bring their way through the corner, trying to see what it is. It looks like Greenhoe's backed off a little bit there. I don't know if that's deliberate or just losing a little bit of pace as they work their way up through 3 and into 4 right now, but here comes Greenhoe. He got a really good run there through 4.
Greenhoe's really backing everything up a lot more than Polizzi is, which is going to be good for his tires later on in the race. Polizzi's being very, very aggressive here. It's equaling out kind of to exactly the same pace between these two, but Greenhoe's backing up the corners. Polizzi is really overcooking the corners a little bit. It might be evening out now, but Kelly is really thinking about the long game, as he usually does, and Polizzi's going to be cooking those tires, which you know, is fine right now, unless you spin, but 20 minutes from now, Greenhoe is going to be driving right by him.
Yeah, very, very true. And you can see the wiggles there out of the 27 under braking, really, really chucking that car through the corners. By the way, we're not missing anything at the front of the field. Sampaio leading from San Diego, leading from Senna there. Really, really spread out gaps of about 1 to 2 seconds up at the front of the field. This is our best battle. Oh, but we've got the number 31 around. That's Patrick Cowgill. I also see Jeff Parsons off into the dirt there as well. That's Parsons off to the right-hand side of your screen.
We'll have to see if those were related. Considering Patrick Cowgill looks to be driving on 2 spinning wheels, I have to imagine they are related because he didn't make any other visible contact there. But it's been a disappointing night for Patrick Cowgill. He got spun around earlier. Let's see what happened here up through turn 5, and he does get spun, and nowhere to go for anybody there. Cowgill's car destroyed. The 76 of David Atwell, I believe, was that other car involved. Attrition strikes again. Sometimes it's other cars spinning in front of you that you can't avoid. Sometimes it's your own mistakes.
Yes, it is, as we ride on board now with Andrew Sharp trying to chase down Michael Chase up ahead of him in that number 34. This is the battle for 9th place. You can see Jerome Stanton there just up the road in that green machine, the number 70 that they're trying to reel in on right now. The YS Motorsports driver that we ride on board with, trying to gain a little bit of time, a little bit of brake smoke coming up from in front there. Very common sight to see around this track, especially through these corners, coming up through 4, 5, and 6 as you try to carry as much speed. And Joey, you know as well as I, one of the biggest dangers coming through those corners, not only running a little bit wide and picking up some of the dirt on the outside, but locking those rear tires. If you do that, that is a one-way ticket to a spin.
It's a one-way ticket to a spin, and as we've seen with the field's a little bit more spread out now than it was before, but it's still, with how long it takes to recover, with how deep you can go off into the runoff here, it is an easy way to lose 5, 10 positions and have a whole new race to run. This track bites. It's high speed, high commitment, every single place, but especially up at turn 6. That is probably one of the most difficult corners in racing. Getting up onto the Rahal straight, you want to carry as much speed as possible. There might not be walls on the outside. There might be a little bit of runoff, but that runoff is deceptive because it's almost just as dangerous as if there was a concrete wall on the outside there.
Yeah, very, very true. I mean, when you talk about Laguna Seca, the number one thing everybody talks about is the corkscrew, but I'm going to agree with you that the hardest corner on this track is turn 6, trying to find that balance between precision and momentum. It can be very, very difficult to get right. We're jumping back around in the field here a little bit more. That is the number 74 of Matthew St. Aubin holding off right now on Robitel behind him, and it also looks like Herlitzky trying to come in on the battle. There is a live view of Matthew as he tries to hold on to P14, trying to withstand a little bit of pressure there from behind. Looks like Robitel trying to maybe take a little bit of an alternate line, makes St. Aubin look in his mirrors a little bit, and that can be a very effective strategy when you're coming up through this rising section of the track, as we just talked about. Even the merest hint offline, and you're off into the dirt.
Very conservative through turn 6, I'll say, for Matthew St. Aubin. He's probably not carrying as much speed as he possibly could, but he's keeping himself within the lines of the racetrack, and that's been working out for him. He's made up a ton of spots since the start, I believe. I don't know exactly how many spots he's advanced from his starting position, but he has kept it within the lines. He's avoided getting off track, and that's been very, very important. He's up into the top 14. He's still under pressure, but he doesn't seem to be very pressured by Pierre Robitel, even though he is right behind him, even though Herlitzky's right behind as well. It just looks like Matthew St. Aubin's doing a qualifying run on his own. He's probably not even looking in his mirrors right now.
Yeah, it certainly does. Up 6 positions on the day and running very, very good lines. And we could see when we rode on board with him and got that live view of him in the cockpit, not taking those sort of signature glances behind that we would come to expect. So that is definitely what you want to see if you are trying to drive defensive, is actually not driving defensive. That is the best way to play a little bit of defense there. But I will say Robitel trying to take a little bit of a look down to the inside there of the Andretti hairpin. Not really going to play out. A little bit of brake smoke, a little bit of dirt getting kicked up there as everybody tries to experiment with lines. And we tick closer and closer here to about 20 20 minutes left to go. And Joey, that really starts to mean the pit stop sequence is going to start to come into play. And I've got to wonder here if we're going to see some of these drivers decide to pit early, take that sort of dark horse esports strategy of coming on in early, getting yourself out of a little bit of traffic, and trying to gain some time that way.
I think the only drivers who that would really work for are, fittingly, the Dark Horse Esports drivers who are kind of stuck in a train behind Polici. But as I say that, Greenho finally finds a way to the inside of Polici, down out of the corkscrew, and he has advanced his way forward there. I think Robitaille made the move while we looked away as well, and Greenho might get 2 for 1. No, that's a lap car, so he does get 2 for 1. He does get by the lap car William Lee, but more importantly, he's up ahead of Eugenio Polici, and now I think he just looks off into the distance. There's no reason to come in early. I don't think he's not really getting held up by anybody ahead of him. He might get held up if Polici tries to fight this back really hard, but right now it looks like this is going to be a fairly straightforward strategy race. I can't imagine there's any alternate strategies that would really work out here, but I'm willing to be surprised.
I'm willing to be surprised as well. That was Greenho taking a big chunk of curbing there coming out of the exit of turn 2, but he's able to keep everything nice and together. This is Polici there, and you can see Greenho starting to stretch his legs off into the distance, and the next thing that Polici's got to start worrying about here is Kelly Greenho's teammate, Ryan Kings. He is closing in behind. He's within a half a second there, so that could be the next battle to really fire off, and we've seen plenty of times what can happen if these two Dark Horse Esports teammates get together. They are kings of playing the team strategy.
You did it again. You said kings the team strategy. Was that time deliberate?
No, it wasn't.
You got to take credit for this, DJ. That's a running bit now. You're gonna take credit for it. No, you're not gonna be here next week, but 2 weeks from now, I expect you to take credit for that. I'm bringing that one back.
All right. I will take credit for it in 2 weeks. Oh, that is a very aggressive line there for Polici coming down out of the corkscrew through the rainy curve. Looks like it's not going to lead to a pass here, but it's certainly going to get him nice and close behind Kelly Greenho, but it's also going to allow for Ryan Kings to be able to pull himself up alongside this three-way battle, and there we go. Dark Horse Esports coming on in early, the first of your drivers to hit pit lane.
And they proved me wrong. I said there was no reason to pull an alternate strategy because they're not in traffic, but then Eugenio Polici decided that he was going to fight back pretty aggressively. So both of these drivers elect to bring it down pit road. They say, you know what, Eugenio, you can run your own race. We'll run our own race too, and try and stay out of each of our ways. Bradley Holly behind is going to elect to bring it down pit road as well. I think he was in a little bit of a battle, but this battle's not ending. Pierre Robitaille in a livery that's about 3 months too early is still trying to get by Matthew Saint-Aubin again, and Saint-Aubin's got that position back.
Yeah, Saint-Aubin driving a brilliant defensive race here at this point, just slightly positioning his car right into the middle of the track, not taking any massive defensive lines, but doing a very good job to keep everything nice and easy and nice and close together. And I've got to agree with you, a couple of months early there for Robitaille, but I do like that livery nonetheless. But let's see if he can bring a little bit of Christmas joy here to him and his team and try to get his way up forward. Maybe be able to sneak a top 10 out of this if he's able to get by Saint-Aubin in the next couple of laps.
There's more attrition up front, especially later in the race after these tires have been baked for 30+ minutes in the California sunshine. If there's more spins, Saint-Aubin's been consistent. Robitaille's been, has been consistent. His name got me choked up there. And Herlitzky's been consistent as well. So they're on the fringes of the top 10, probably 14th, 15th, 16th or so once everything shakes out. But they've been very consistent, and that's all you can do at Laguna Seca. When it bites, you've got to be the driver who keeps it on track. That's who you're going to get a top 10 at the end of this race. And the first of our top 3 drivers is in now, Felipe Senni.
Yeah, Senni coming on in here. It's going to be interesting to see how they shake out necessarily in terms of those drivers that have already pitted. This is a pretty good battle, though, that we've got our eyes on right now. This is going to be Jerome Stanton trying to hold off Michael Chase. Stanton for Fossil Skull Racing right now. Chase trying to send that around the outside. Not going to work. Looks for a little bit of an over-under there through the Andretti hairpin. Sometimes that can work, but well defended from Stanton, keeping that car planted right at the apex. Later apex there coming into turn 3 as well. That's going to allow him to carry a little bit more momentum out of the corner as they go. Here they come now down through 4. Still nothing really in between them, although Chase did run a little bit wide there on the exit of the corner.
He did. He's just trying to, he's basically following Stanton in his tire tracks. There's no real alternate lines being run here, and it's not working out for Michael Chase. He's just getting held up a little bit behind that fossil skull car of Stanton up through turn 6. Stanton goes a little bit wide, so he's the driver who makes the mistake now. Here comes Chase with the momentum. If I know Michael Chase, I know he's going to go for it into the corkscrew, and it's going to be easy because Stanton's going to back out of it. And Michael Chase easily going to be up into 5th if he can get it slowed down, and he does.
Nice move there for Michael Chase. As we look back at the front of the field, Jamison Sampaio running this car around. He and Kevin Sandiego not taking the bait on coming down into pit lane. Looks like they want to run these tanks a little bit more dry. We focus back here, Michael Chase, and this is going to be a little bit of an attack back as Chase, Stanton, and Andrew Sharp there behind them all opt to come down and take their pit stops here with about 16, 17 minutes to go.
That's 3 drivers who have practiced their pit entry. Well organized to all of those 3. Coming down pit lane at Laguna Seca when you're that close to the car in front of you, that can end in tears sometimes. That can end in somebody Grosjeaning it into the Laguna Seca pit wall, but all of them got away with it. They all made it through, and we'll see who wins the race off pit road here.
Yes, we will. It looks like all 3 drivers were able to come to rest in their box with no problem whatsoever, so we're not going to see any penalties there from that, as it looks like a very good getaway from Stanton. He's going to be able to jump back on Michael Chase. Looking back at the pit stop time there, 14.2 seconds for Jerome Stanton, 17.5 for Michael Chase. That may be a little bit on the short side there for Stanton, but we also saw Kelly Greenhoe take a 14.7 pit stop, and Greenhoe has been known to be a little bit of a fuel whisperer and make those light strategies work.
I've learned to never question the fuel strategies because nobody ever seems to run out of fuel when I think they haven't taken enough fuel. But here comes our race leader. He's going to come in, and Kevin Sandiego goes for the alternate strategy. He's going to go one more time around, hope that Jamison gets stuck in traffic, because Kevin hasn't had the pace for Jamison on track. The gap has been slowly expanding from about 1 second at the start of the race. Now it's a full 2 seconds. But Jamison, by pitting right now, he's going to come out in traffic. He's going to come out right behind Herlitsky and Robitaille and Saint-Aubin. He's going to have a few cars in front of him, and Kevin Sandiego's got clean track if he can extend this for a couple more laps.
Yeah, if he's able to extend, and again, we're seeing Sampaio go up onto the jacks there. Maybe he's taking those right side tires. Remember, we saw him do that last time out in Watkins Glen. It really threw us for a loop, but the track time there, the pit stop time, 15.8 seconds. Sampaio has got this 2-tire strategy down to a T here and playing it very, very well.
Laguna Seca, another track where there are a lot of left turns, so if you can take 2 tires and still only be in the pits for 14, 15 seconds, I guess everybody should be trying that out, but nobody else is. And also, I just noticed Felipe Sendi, he came in on his own, so we weren't really looking at him. He was in the pit box for 10 extra seconds. I wonder if he took all 4 tires accidentally, because he's had an extra 10 seconds to his pit time, and he's actually behind Kelly Greenhoe right now, which means he's gone from a sure podium to running 5th or 6th in the overall order now, I think.
Well, we've seen the pace here out of Senni, so maybe he'll be able to gain some back up through the order, but with only about 14 minutes left to go, that's going to be a tall, tall order to try to pull off. We focus here on the number 81 here of Senni as he works his way around. That is Kelly Greenhoe directly up in front of him. Let's see how close he is able to go as they run. Looking here at the comparative lap times, I can tell you, when both of them were out of the pits and coming on out, Senni was able to take a full second out of Greenhoe. But Kevin Sandiego, your leader, coming down into pit lane. Does he hit his marks? Yes, he does. So this is going to be a pretty easy stop there for them. Also seeing Eugenio Polici coming down into the pits as well.
And good news for Jamison Sampaio is that he did not, in fact, come out behind the 3-car battle. He came out right ahead of him, so he had no traffic. Kevin Sandiego, no traffic as well, but he's in the pit stall for 1.3 seconds longer than Sampaio. He didn't take tires. Here comes Jamison over the top of the hill, but Kevin might beat him out here. This is going to be close.
Remember, it's a narrower pit exit here, taking all of the road. There was Jamison Sampaio. I think he might just barely hold this out, and indeed, as they come out of pit lane, the gap is going to be about 0.6 of a second. The race is on for P1.
And that is the exact difference. The gap on track right now is the exact difference between both of their times in the pit. So if Kevin Sandiego maybe could have saved a little bit of fuel, maybe could have put a little bit less fuel in the car, he might have been able to beat Sampaio on track position. But he is now on the back foot again, and he's just got to hope that he can get a little bit closer to Jameson and force him into a mistake, or maybe a lapped car comes up soon and screws him up a little bit. But his chance was in the pit cycle, and it didn't quite work out. And now you've got the ultimate challenge of keeping Jameson Sampaio company for the last 12 minutes of the race.
Well, look at that. Through about 3 corners already, Sampaio has been able to keep up a gap and grow the gap to about 0.3 of a second there. It's now teetering on the verge of a full second. Now, part of that has to do with a little bit of hotter tires. Remember, San Diego didn't change tires, but they will have cooled down a little bit just waiting in pit lane. And also, let's not forget here that Sampaio just had the outright pace when it came to running in qualifying. So we'll have to see how that shakes itself out. Behind them, we're still waiting for Kyle Hurlitsky to come on down into pit lane. Kelly Greenhow and Felipe Senni, they're behind them. That is the battle, and a battle indeed it is.
Felipe's getting very, very aggressive. He's impatient behind Kelly Greenhow, and that's understandable because he spent 10 extra seconds in the pit lane that I'm sure he didn't want to be spending. But he's going for the lower percentage moves. He's clearly desperate to get by Kelly Greenhow, and that's probably good for Kelly right now. Kelly keeps a cool head at all times. He's always thinking about the bigger picture, and you can see, he sees that Felipe's being aggressive. He kind of leaves him room, backs out a little bit, and on the potentially new tires, Felipe Senni is going to easily get by Greenhow, go back to his rightful third place spot where he was before, but this is probably where he's going to stay. Look at that 16-second gap that's expanded up to San Diego now.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. And actually, Greenhow came over the radio and said, go ahead and pass me, recognizing the speed there from Felipe. So great sportsmanship. That's one of the hallmarks that we've really come to expect here out of Kelly Greenhow. And he does have another battle to worry about behind him there. That is ABC, Austin Bartlett Chase, coming up behind him. That gap is under a second right now, so he's going to have to keep his eye on that one as well.
And Polici and Kings, even further back from that, they've been going side by side for like the entirety of this lap, it looks like. Polici's finally going to get ahead, but Ryan Kings is going to be in the draft in the short straight up here to the corkscrew. Polici is going to block to the inside, I think. Not going to let Kings send it. He actually isn't, but Kings also thinks better of trying to get the car slowed down into the corkscrew, and he's going to stay back, but this is a titanic battle, and that's going to make Greenhow and Bartlett Chase very happy because their 4th and 5th are both going to be a little bit more comfortable for as long as Polici and Kings are holding each other up.
Yeah, exactly here, and I've got to give credit here to Eugenio Polici, able to pull out just a little bit more of a gap, call it about 1/10 of a second as they came down through the corkscrew, just able to apply the power a little bit better, and that gap now expanding upwards of about 0.5 of a second as they make their way on to the start-finish straightaway. The draft coming back into help here in Ryan Kings' favor. It's coming down to about 0.4. Still, you got to be a lot closer to get that move going down to the Andretti hairpin, though, and indeed, Kings is not going to go for it, although takes a little bit of a narrower line there, a very, very slight diamonding of the corner, but that was Polici really diamonding it off. The different lines you can take through Andretti. Whoa, look at that curb jump there from Kings.
Kings trying to flip an MX-5 at Laguna Seca, evidently, but that shows you how hard he's pushing. Both him and Polici both actually went off a little bit on the outside of turn 2. They both kind of followed each other a little bit too wide, but they both lost the same amount of time by doing that, and the battle continues. There's a little bit of smoke ahead of them, but nothing concerning. I think that might have been a lap car going off. This hasn't been a good first half of the lap for Kings. There's the biggest reason for that. 2 wheels on the track is not quite as quick as 4 wheels unless you're on a motorcycle at Laguna Seca. I don't even think they come here anymore, but look at that suspension. Slow motion. Put that in your ads, Mazda.
That is an impressive run, and I've got to give Kings credit there to be able to keep that car pointed the straight way. That requires a lot of not only steering control, but feathering of the throttle. We've got a good little battle here, though. This is Mark Kalin all over the back of Hurlitsky. Kalin, we know, is often likes to be aggressive here. He's going to try to make a move going up into the corkscrew. He's going to be ahead of him by the time they get into the braking zone. Great move for Mark Kalin, and now he's got Matthew Saint-Aubin right in front of him.
A little bit of self-preservation there, I think, from Hurlitsky to just back out of it, let the inevitable happen. and St. Aubin is next on Mark Kalen's list. Remember, this is a drive forward through the field, so Mark Kalen, always a driver who likes to go for an overtake. Also a driver who is currently trying to get back to what potentially could have been a top 10 in this race with the way everything is shaken out. But he spun earlier at turn 2, moved far down the field, but he is doing a great job on this recovery here. St. Aubin's probably going to be a little bit too far away into turn 1, about half a second between them right now. It's enough to be in draft range for Kalen. If this was qualifying, he'd be getting a little bit of help right now, but not quite close enough to go for the move. But Mark Kalen's on a mission right now. Matthew St. Aubin might not have been looking in his mirrors before, but he's going to have to soon.
Yeah, he's certainly going to have to as he sees that 62 coming up behind him for the Whataback Racing team, closing that gap down as much as he can. Kalen's got it down to about 0.6 of a second here as they exit out of turn 3, working their way through turn 4. Again, Kalen, you can see just how much more of an aggressive turn in that number 62 has, and that is really a hallmark of Mark Kalen's driving. You love to see it. He loves to drive these MX-5s on the absolute ragged edge.
He drives every single car on the ragged edge, and luckily he's here seemingly every night for the Precision Racing League, so we get to see him do that in every single type of car. So always good to see Mark Kalen trying every single car under the sun. We're going to ride on board with him up over the top of the hill. Still a little bit too far back to send a move on St. Aubin, but he's going to have a shot here. St. Aubin blocks to the inside of the corkscrew. Kalen takes a little bit normaler of a line, frankly. Might be close enough through the final corner. Just depends on how everything shakes out through the bottom of the hill here. Kalen a little bit narrower, probably not carrying as much speed as he possibly could through turn 9 there. And down the bottom of the hill, St. Aubin clips the curb. Kalen gets a little bit of target fixation and goes off the road. And he's going to have to wait another lap to try and go for a move.
Yeah, I think he is as well. Just carried a little bit too much momentum coming down the hill there as they ran. But he is certainly trying to do absolutely everything he can do here to keep himself up forward and to keep that car fixated in his sights. 5.5 minutes left to go here from Laguna Seca as Kalen taking every inch of the track down into the Andretti hairpin, closes up in the mid-corner. Going to lose a little bit of speed there, but he's going to be helped out by the fact that St. Aubin runs a little bit wide there on the exit of turn 2. Is Kalen going to have any response here as they start to climb up the hill?
I can see the response right now. Also, I think that was Pierre Robitaille spun on the inside there, so that's unfortunate for him or for whoever that was. Might have been a different red car, but here comes Mark Kalen trying to think about where he's going to go. He's going to go to the inside, despite the fact that the inside doesn't exist. Matthew St. Aubin left him all the room in the world on the outside, but Kalen says, I'm not going for the switchback. I'm gonna try and squeeze to the inside, and understandably that didn't work. He's smiling about it. I think he knew that scenario was about to happen there, and that move was never going to work, and it didn't. And now he's got to wait again for another mistake from St. Aubin to try and go for a move.
Well, and the thing is that smile you see there from Mark Kalen, one of the things I love about Mark is he is a racer through and through. He doesn't like to just, lead from the front of the race. He wants to be in wheel-to-wheel battles. That is what gets his blood going, as it does with really any of these competitors. Leading from the front of the race, taking the victory. Yes, it's fantastic to be able to spray the champagne. Don't get me wrong, but in a side-by-side battle, that's it. Jerome Stanton coming on down into pit lane here. I'm not entirely sure what that is. I don't know if this was a fueling issue. Remember, we said he did come in a little bit early, topping off with only 14.2 seconds. Let's see if he comes to rest. Yep, I think this is going to be a little bit of a splash and dash here for the number 70.
Very unfortunate for Jerome. I thought it might be a drive-through. I thought we might see the 13x incident limit coming into the conversation here, but no, it looks like he just made a mistake on his pit stop. The timing was a little bit messed up on his pit stop, so he couldn't tell exactly how long he was in the pit lane on my screen, but it didn't look nearly long enough, at least. So Jerome Stanton has to come down pit road again for an extra 40 seconds or so, put extra fuel in the car, and it's been a great run for Jerome. It's going to end at about 21st for him, but he's shown promise. He's shown he can race in the top 10, closer to the front of the field, and I'm sure we'll be seeing more of that in 8 more weeks. It's good to get your mistakes out of the way in the first 2 weeks at least. I can speak from experience, and Jerome will be back. He's been quick.
Well, and here's my question now as we look to this battle between Austin Bartlett Chase and Kelly Greenhoe. Greenhoe was only stationary in the box for a half a second longer than Jerome Stanton, and that is the shortest pit stop that we have seen here, really. So is Kelly going to be running into some fuel problems? Now, Kelly is very, very good with fuel, knows how to manage it. We've often seen him take some lighter fuel loads on, but if I'm watching onto this, I've got a little bit of warning bells going off. If Jerome Stanton needed a top off, there's a very real possibility that Kelly Greenhoe may be running low on fuel here and may not be able to keep up the attack on Austin Bartlett Chase. And indeed, you can see him backing off there a little bit. I wonder if he's having to do a little bit of lift and coast.
He definitely is. If you look at those last 2 lap times, Austin Bartlett Chase 139.3, Kelly Greenhoe 140.8. So Kelly clearly has probably not miscalculated, but he might have underfueled the car just a little bit, and he is going to have to back off here with 2 minutes left to go in the race. There's only going to be 2 laps to go, but if Kelly only has like 1.8 laps of fuel in the tank, he's got to do a lot of work, and his teammate Ryan Kings might get by him. Luckily, he has about 10 seconds back to 7th place Polici, so he might not lose too much, but Kelly's got some work to do to get to the end of this race, I think.
Yeah, he certainly does. You saw there, by the way, on your screen, Mark Kalin taking a little bit of an opportunistic dive down into the Andretti hairpin, almost making contact with Matthew St. Aubin, but able to restrain himself and get himself back into position, but carries some very, very good speed coming up there through turn 5. Let's see if he's able to carry the same coming up through turn 6 right now. They drive their way through the corner. Oh, almost completely sideways there was Mark Kalin, but he is coming on like a train with a full head of steam here. Is he going to have a little bit of a move going down into the corkscrew? Let's see what he does. Gonna stick it in line here. A little bit of a wider entry into the corner. That should help him carry a little bit more speed if he wants to, but not really able to close it down. That gap holding true here at about 3.5 tenths of a second as they're gonna come to the line here with 2 laps to go.
He's running out of time. It's going to be 2 more laps for Mark Kalin at the line. Jameson Sampaio is about 30 seconds behind this train right now, so he'll take the white flag. But 2 laps to go, and there's the mistake. Matthew St. Aubin finally made it through the final corner, and this might just be easier than Kalin thought. He's going to get to the inside. St. Aubin's going to try and fight on the outside, but there's one groove down the hill at Laguna Seca, and he's going to have to back out of it. He's going to peek to the inside again, but Kalin's always late on the brakes. Late in the brakes into turn 1. Don't spin it around in turn 2. He succeeds, and that should be Mark Kalin easily up into P13.
And Kyle Herlitzky there also had a little bit of a look on Matthew St. Aubin going down into the corner, but that didn't play itself out necessarily, so they're going to have to see how they go right now. Working their way around as they run, trying to see what is going to be able to happen here as we tick closer and closer to that 0 mark as the leader crosses over the start-finish line with 1 lap to go. Side by side as they go through the corner, Herlitzky getting all kinds of aggressive there on Matthew St. Aubin, but St. Aubin able to hold off for now. We got a car into the wall. That's Greenhoe.
Kelly Greenhoe, he didn't run out of fuel. He loses it on the outside of the corkscrew. That, talk about unexpected. Let's see what happened to Kelly. He's trying to fight with Austin Bartlett Chase down the hill, loses it, overcorrects, and unfortunately, he finds a very, very hard concrete wall on the outside there. I don't think that's the way we expected Kelly Greenhoe to not finish the race. That is so unfortunate. That's a mistake out of a driver we see who doesn't often make mistakes, and that's going to be Austin Bartlett Chase in an easy 4th now.
Yes, it is Kelly Greenhoe, the model of consistency, it has to be said, but we've got to also talk about the model of not only consistency, but speed, and that is up at the front of the field. Jameson Sampaio, once again, absolutely stomping his way to a victory, a gap of 7.5 seconds here as he works his way up towards the corkscrew and back down again. The 419 driving a race of sheer perfection.
And I think next week at Suzuka, there's going to be a lot of right-hand turns. I think everybody in the field is going to be looking to Jameson Sampaio and saying what he's been doing and taking half the tires has been working very, very well. I think I'll take left side tires in my pit stop too. So I'd absolutely expect that next week because this has worked beautifully for Jameson.
It's worked beautifully for 2 races in a row for the 419. He brings the car over to the left-hand side of the track, taking the victory run to the line here as he crosses over the stripe to take victory at Laguna Seca. That is 2 for 2 for Sampaio.
And Kevin Sandiego, a strong 2nd place, but again, 2 drivers, Kevin Sandiego this week, Bradley Holly last week, were able to keep in touch with Jameson. And then after that pit stop, after that 2-tire call, they just completely lost touch in the second half of the race. So everybody at Suzuka next week is going to be thinking about that Jameson strategy, like I said. But the battles aren't over. Sharp and Bergquist, 2 drivers who fought it at the end of last season. Bergquist gets a good run out of turn 10. He's actually going to get the inside through the final corner. Sharp later on the brakes. Bergquist trying to fight it on the inside. It's going to be a drag race to the line, DJ.
It's going to be a drag race to the line, and it looks like right now Sharp's got the nose ahead. That's going to be Bergquist trying to tail in behind, but it's going to be too little too late as Sharp will be able to hold on to P9 just over Kevin Bergquist. A fantastic drive to the finish there.
Kyle Herlitzky, the back of his car, says, don't panic, and he has not panicked, but he also wasn't able to get by Saint-Aubin, unfortunately, but it was a good battle with him, and Mark Kalin is coming down pit road to come to the end of this race. It's a drive-through, I think. Did Mark Kalin reach the incident point in the final lap? Oh, no. He had such a great drive back through the field, and if you get an incident point limit on the last lap, you can't serve it. That's going to be a penalty for Mark Kalin, in addition to doing that drive-through, I think.
Yes, it is. That is going to be a penalty there for Mark Kalin. Whoa, that is a car having a whole bunch of problems there. That's the number 72. That is Robert Gallinotto getting it all kinds of wrong there from 21st, coming out of the final corner. My goodness gracious, having a problem there, but he is at least going to be able to cross over the stripe there to hold on to that 21st position, and that is going to wrap out our field here today. So let's run you through our final finishing order. Jamison Sampaio again taking victory. That makes him 2 for 2. Kevin Sandiego coming home in second with Felipe Seni there in P3. Austin Bartlett Chase and Ryan Kings round out your top 5 with Eugenio Pellicci and Michael Chase in 7th. Bradley Holly, after that early spin, able to recover to hold on to a good top 10 there in 8th place, followed by Andrew Sharp and Kevin Bergquist, who were duking it out right up into the very line. In 11th place, it was Josh Kimbrell, followed by Matthew Saint-Aubin, who was able to hold off Kyle Herlitzky, who again put on good pressure near the end of the race. Mark Kalin had to settle back for 14th after going off there and getting that penalty. Jason Larson was 15th, followed by Pierre Robitaille. Then it was Pete Thomas and Andrew Venaro. Jerome Stanton and Ian Cabana will round out your top 20. Back in 21st, it's Robert Gallinotto and the first car a lap down, Patrick Cowgill, followed by David Atwell, Nathan Miller, and Kelly Greenhoe suffering that incident coming out of the corkscrew on the penultimate lap. Then we get into some drivers who really ran into trouble today. William Lee, Anthony Cortina, Jeff Parsons, Jeff Besnard, and Guillaume Hillard. And then bringing out the rest of the field here was Frank Klein and David Van Roy. And that is going to bring us over here to some interviews that we have. And first and foremost, it is our victor yet again, Jamison Sampaio, 2 for 2. You are staking an early claim to this championship. Jamison, you got a copy?
Let me copy. Good night.
Good night to you as well. 2 for 2. Early claims here on the championship. You look great out there, my friend.
Me, I'm like this car. I'm like this track. I want to thank my friends and my wife Tati, and my son Enzo, and my mom, my grandpa. I have a drive school. Let's involve together. Come on Discord. Fight for championships. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Jamison. Congratulations again. We will see you next week as you continue to charge for this championship. Congratulations again, my friend.
Thanks, Clax. Good evening for everybody. Nice race.
A very nice race indeed for your victor there, Jamison Sampaio. And Joey, I believe you have been able to catch up with P2 here, Kevin Sandiego.
Yeah, Kevin Sandiego, you actually got a chance to practice and qualify this week, and it worked out pretty well. P2 in your first real race of the season, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great to run with you guys. Last week was a bit of a mess. I jumped into qualifying with like 10 seconds to go, so it was really cold and messed it up. But this week was pretty good.
So Jameson at the head of the field for the last 2 weeks. He's been taking 2 tires during his pit stops. Is that something that you guys at Dark Horse Esports have even thought about as a strategy? Is that something that you guys have rejected? What's the difference between the 2 team strategies here?
Yeah, I'm not used to driving with this much restricted fuel setup, so I should have taken tires. I didn't. I came out about 0.9 behind him, and you could see my pace just fall off in the second part there after the pit stop. So I wish I would have taken tires. Would have been the smart thing to do.
Next week, it's our first bull ring of the season. We seem to see a lot of these in the MX-5, but we're at Suzuka East, the more normal of the Suzuka bull rings, I would say. Are you looking forward to the shortened Suzuka next week?
You know, I'm not sure if I've actually run that configuration before, so definitely it'd be interesting. We'll do some practice this weekend, see how it goes. But yeah, looking forward to the race. These are always good fun to run, so definitely looking forward to it.
All right, well, congrats on your podium tonight, and we'll see you on Thursday before we see you next week.
Yep, absolutely. F3. All right, guys, have a good night. Take care. Thanks.
Have a good night, Kevin Sandiego. P2 tonight, and looks like we got one more driver. We got the whole podium this week. Felipe Senni is with DJ Clark.
Yes, indeed, Felipe. Welcome to the series, and talk about a way to make your opening a podium here. How does it feel?
Hey, Clark. Nice to talk to you and everybody else there. I'm feeling great. Last week I lost the first race because I was in vacation. I was in the beautiful Spain visiting Madrid and Barcelona. But I went back to the rig, and now I'm super happy to be part of your great championship alongside my Brazilian friend. As you can notice by my accent, I'm also Brazilian, just like Jameson. And yeah, super happy to be part of your league. Here in Brazil, we have many leagues, but not following the advanced Mazda schedule. So it's going to be a new challenge for me. And yes, that's it. I'm gonna practice for the next week, right? So hope to get close to Jameson and Kevin, who's super fast as well. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Felipe. Anybody you'd like to thank for this third place here today?
For sure. I'm gonna say hello to my father. Fala, Zé Mauro. My father, who's my #1 fan and watches all races. So this one's for him.
All right. Well, thank you again, Felipe, and we will see you next time out.
For sure. Let's do it.
Let's do it indeed. That was Felipe Senni, your third place driver. And as you heard there, Joey, next time we head to the bull ring that is Suzuka East. Probably going to be seeing some of those tire changes, I think, that have been playing in, as that appears to be the new strategy here in this MX-5 series.
The revolution begins, and it might just begin at Suzuka for the rest of the field. We heard Kevin Sandiego say he's not used to the limited fuel. I'm sure some drivers from last season are also not used to having to change the tires in these MX-5s, but this has been a season of surprises. It's been a season dominated by Brazil so far, and I'm pretty excited to see how this develops for the rest of the season. Clark?
I am as well, Tevin. So with that, though, we are proud to announce that it's not over tonight. We still have some fantastic racing action from Daytona as we get ready here for the GT4 Fixed Series. And, well, Joey, as we talked about in Laguna Seca, a tight technical track where the draft isn't really going to play all that much of a consideration. When we turn to Daytona, it's a different story entirely. We're going to be talking about the draft, the whole draft, and nothing but the draft.
And we've heard everybody coming into this week. They're all scared of the big Beamer, the big BMW in a straight line here. It seems like it's going to be pretty strong, but some of our other cars, the Aston Martin has been strong in a straight line. I think some drivers thought the new McLaren is faster in a straight line this season than it was last year. So it's going to be, like you said, the draft all the time, straight line speed all the time, especially in qualifying. It's going to be crazy. It's Daytona. It always is.
Yes, it is. And let's go ahead and take a look there at the full schedule for this season. We head to another bull ring next time out in the form of the National Circuit of Barcelona. That's going to be interesting here in these GT4s. Then we head to Road Atlanta. Ashoblian there going into round 5, one of the new tracks here on the service. That's going to be pretty fantastic to see. Then we get to some of the traditional tracks that we've really become accustomed to seeing here in the GT4 Sprint Series, including Sebring, Sandown, Nürburgring, Mid-Ohio, and again, ending the season out at Road America. And I'm very, very excited to see some of these circuits come back, especially Sandown. I mean, talk about an exciting race that we had there last year.
Yeah, that was potentially the race of the PRL season of any series that we had last season. GT4s at Sandown, so I am absolutely looking forward to going back to that. Road America at the end of the season. Both the MX-5s and the GT4s are going to end at Road America in week 10, so that'll be fitting for that Monday night. It'll be an all Road America night, and then of course Aschersleben. We're always looking forward to that one. I always love a new track. I'm disappointed that Rudskogen didn't work out this season. We might see it next season, but Aschersleben, that's the way to even out the field. Just throw everybody on a new track.
Indeed it is. And speaking of the field, let's go ahead and take a look at the championship standings here after one round, so everything is pretty tight. Michael Diaz able to take the victory last time out, despite a fierce attack there from Justin Ream, who came up just short. Francis Castillo-Romero did round out your podium last time out, followed by Matias Arangua. A great result there for him. Yignac there in P5, followed by Arvello. Tyler Scarali coming over from what we traditionally see him running in the F3s, as well as Michael Broomhead. So very, very good to see Britannia iSports represented here. Sean Mulholland and then Matthew Miles rounding out your top 10. We also have a teams championship, and it's Precision Racing Esports Pro leading the way over the aforementioned Britannia iSports. Then it's Precision Racing Esports Academy behind them. YS Motorsports in a pretty close battle there with Advent Racing. One of our favorite names, hashtag Monkey Butt Rides MRT. Then SRT Esports, HPDS Academy, RSH Motorsports, and Rust Racing rounding out your top 10 in the standings as they run. And that's going to bring us right on into qualifying here today. And, well, with open qualifying here, Joey, it is all going to be about that draft. We didn't see a lot of teammate work, I think, happening in Laguna Seca, but here at Daytona, a lot of cars trying to hook up with one another, drive their way around, and, well, to the surprise, I think, of you and I, it's not a BMW up on the top of the charts.
I think you can see the reason why on your screen right now, though. These YS Motorsports drivers, they found each other. They might not be in the same car. Oh, dear. I think Adam Brockway might have got a little bit too much of a draft there from his teammate. He caught the back of the other Aston Martin. I think had to back out, so that might kill this lap. But he's going to get another shot. He's going to give his YS Motorsports teammate some draft this time around. Brockway on that time does not improve, but 5 more minutes to go. There's a huge train in front of him. He might have to get some help from not his teammate now.
Yeah, he certainly might. And with a field here of about 38 entries, this is going to be a very, very crowded track, despite how wide it is. Oh, there's a little bit of a spin out there for the YS Motorsports driver, Adam Brockway. That is your pole sitter, having it all go wrong here with about 5 minutes left to go in qualifying. We look a little bit farther back in the field. That is Francis Castillo-Romero running around right now behind the number 17 as they go, doing a great job here as they work their way around, trying to see what they can do. And once again, these BMWs trying to take advantage of the draft.
And 2 Precision Racing Esports teammates, the pro teammates of Diaz and Francis Castillo-Romero. So it's going to be Francis getting help this time if Michael can prevent holding him up. Michael got help last time. We saw him jump up to P2. Still 2/10 off Brockway, though. So the BMW, which was so fearsome in a straight line last season, it might have been BOP'd down a little bit. It might have been nerfed in a straight line just a little bit. But how do you overcome that nerf? You get a little bit of a draft from your teammate. And Francis Castillo-Romero is going to get a huge run here through NASCAR Turn 2. We'll see if he can catch Michael Diaz before the bus stop. We'll see what the optimal teammate maneuver is here. Will Michael Diaz have to back out before the bus stop? I don't think he will. I don't think Francis is going to close that early. So they're going to be able to run one by one through the bus stop here. Francis isn't going to get held up by his teammate. He's going to get some extra draft here on the second stage of the straight, but unfortunately, I don't think this lap is going to count at all because he just took way too much grass there.
Yeah, it took way too much grass there at the bus stop there, so that's probably not going to be the best run, and that's going to be something we're going to be talking about over the course of the rest of this racing. So that is going to definitely throw things off a little bit. You've got to be careful, and indeed, there comes Francis Castillo Romero coming down into pit lane, practicing that pit entry. That is a very, very tricky pit entry. You're coming in at such a high clip that it is almost impossible to get that car slowed down, and it is a real difficult thing to do.
It's a difficult thing to do in any car, but when you're in a GT4 car that is almost as close to a road car as you can get on iRacing, other than maybe the Jetta, I guess, but it is a very hard car to slow down, especially when you're probably moving the brake bias pretty far back to try and maximize the straight line speed a little bit and try and maximize other parts of the track, but yeah, it's hard to get it slowed down. But it looks like everybody has figured it out for the most part. In race conditions, though, once we get to turn 1 on that rolling start, that's always a pinch point. That's always a tough spot because everybody's got a different braking point into turn 1, and sometimes they overlap a little bit.
Yeah, sometimes they certainly do overlap a little bit there as we ride on board right now with Patrick Bachelard in the Aston Martin in the number 100. He's going to get a nice little tow there up in front of him from Kyle Kammer as they dive down into the corner right now, trying to kick it up there. That's about as close as you want to get as a good line there coming out of the bus stop. That is such a tricky corner because you have got to absolutely nail that exit. You can't bring too much speed into the corner because it sacrifices speed all the way around here through NASCAR 3 and 4.
Yeah, the bus stop here, similar to the bus stop at Watkins Glen, I compare it to a corner where you just kind of throw it in and hope, but these guys are of a higher level, and Patrick Bachelard nailed it that time. Perfect run through the bus stop. He's going to get held up on his second lap here by this traffic jam in front of him. But up to P5, that's a strong lap for him, and more drivers are going to join the traffic jam now as well. Matias Arangua, it's not easy to find an open spot at Daytona, which is kind of surprising. It's a pretty big track, but when there's 36 drivers on the track, there's still a lot of traffic.
Yeah, there's still a lot of traffic, and Arangua down in 15th right now. That's going to be a little bit of a disappointment after the fantastic run he had last time to 4th. Here is one of the series organizers, though, Jerome Bertillon, working his way around in 8th place. That's a good run there for him. I think he'll be pretty pleased with that for a starting position, and certainly some room to continue to move his way up through the field for him.
I think every time we see Jerome on this cam, the camera gets a little bit higher up. I feel like we're even higher than we normally are. We're looking down on him on a very, very high angle here, but in relevant things, this is his final lap. He's got 50 seconds left. He's not getting any help from his teammate in the non-pro Precision Racing Esports squad, Frankie Arvello, who is right behind him on the timing. I don't believe is right behind him on the track right now, so this is just kind of a lonesome run, Jerome's final run. He only needs about 0.04 of a second, though, to beat Jacques up ahead. Let's see if he can do it, though. 50 more seconds left. He will get to the end of this lap because it is open qualifying, but he's got to do it all on his lonesome.
Yes, he does, and I gotta think that that's not going to be helping him out. He's not going to get any of the benefit of the draft as he works his way around right now. Here they come, though, down into the bus stop. Let's see how Jerome's able to handle it. That's about as pixel perfect as you can get it, running that perfectly. Taking the car out wide a little bit. He's going to run up on the high side here. I think that may be a little bit of a sign that that lap is not going to go well. As we've talked about before, very difficult to run high and keep up speed unless you're really in a prototype. That's kind of the best way to get that run around here. But Jerome looks like he's going to keep it going. Is he going to fade off into pit lane? Going to fade off into pit lane. So this lap not going to count for Jerome.
A little bit of a practice pit entry there for the green flag pit stops later on tonight, I'm sure. Good on him for getting that last little bit of practice. Marvin Frias is a name who wasn't here last week. A lot of drivers in the field this week who weren't here for Okayama last week, but they're finally setting off their championship challenges this time, and what a way to do it. Currently P3, and you can't see it right now by the angle of the roof of this McLaren, but he's getting a double draft, or at least it was a single draft. Frankie Arvello backs out of the way. Marvin Frias is going to have some help to the line here. That could be the help he needs to advance onto the front row, but he's not going to be able to use it. He's going to bring it down pit lane as well, and he's going to completely overcook it at that.
And here is Michael Diaz running in second place right now. He does has Francis Castillo-Romero to help get a little bit of a pull in front of him there as they go down the long straightaway here coming into the tri-oval. Is this going to be an improvement for Diaz? Ducks down low. Yes, just barely. And that is going to give him 99 thousandths off of Adam Brockway. Very, very close. And I got to think that that means we are going to have a fantastic front row. Here is Matías Arangua, one of the last drivers we believe to be able to make it around here. Arangua not getting a whole lot of help around him. We'll have to see if he's going to try to complete this lap or if this is going to be a giveaway, and it looks like he's going to come down pit lane, not be able to call this one out.
Brockway and Diaz on the front row. That's going to be pretty exciting. Remember last season at Sandown again. Going to rehash that. They came to blows. Brockway lost what was surely going to be his first GT4 win. So they're going to be on the front row together. That's going to be a fantastic race. The new name, Marvin Frias with them. Francis Castillo-Romero, 8 thousandths behind that. You thought Daytona was going to be crazy coming into this, and the fact that everybody's this close in qualifying, I think it's certainly going to be prove true.
Well, look at the standings as they go first to 17th, separated by only a second. That is close running, and really goes to show you just the power of the draft around this circuit. Absolutely remarkable stuff as they go. But really and truly here, I am excited for this one to fire off, Joey. Just waiting for qualifying to tick over as we get ready for our rolling start here at Daytona.
And Adam Brockway on pole for the first time in the GT4s. I'm not sure if he got a pole in the GT3s last season. I don't think he did. Let me do a quick search here. He did. He got 1 pole in the GT3s, but it's his first GT4 pole. Always an accomplishment to get your first pole, and let's see if he can double up, get his second win overall and his first GT4 win.
Well, speaking of pole position, let's go ahead and run you through that qualifying order. As you said, Adam Brockway going to be lining up in pole, followed by Michael Diaz in his Precision Racing Esports BMW. Then it's going to be Marvin Frias, and followed by Francis Castillo-Romero. Patrick Bachelard will be in P5, followed by Mark Griffith in the first McLaren in the field. Then it's going to be Fernando Jaquez in P7, followed by Jerome Berthiaume. Frankie Arvello will be P9, followed by Chase Brown, Jean-Marc Tremblay, and then Luis Gurion will be in P12. P13 is Sean Mulholland, followed by Justin Ream, a very, very surprisingly low qualifying there for the geodesic driver. Then it's going to be Matías Arangua and Johnny Luna, followed by Darren Rutherford and Kyle Kammer. In 19th position, it'll be Drew Likia, followed by Artie Mercedes, then Anthony Dring and Dean Garreau. Gabriel Gignac will be 23rd, followed by Austin Harris in 24th. 25th will be Brett Puncari with Corey Clark to his outside. Joshua Tellez will be in 27th, followed by Matthew Miles with Luis Barraza and David Slee in P30. P31 will be Vincent Bessonet, followed by Nicholas Colander with Liam Park and William Brennan in the row behind them. Stephen Hassett lines up 35th, followed by Stacey Hunter in 36th, and then bringing up the back row of the field, it's going to be Barron Hilton and Doyle Lawrence in this very, very large field today. 38 cars, Joey. Thank goodness this is a big, wide track, but we both know it gets pretty narrow at different points.
And I'm so happy to see the big grids here on Monday night, the MX-5s and the GT4s. It got whittled down just a little bit at the end of last season, but I am very, very glad to see both of these series in great health right now, and it's going to be an incredible race. I mentioned turn 1 in qualifying as a pinch point. The fact that this is a rolling start is going to make it even more difficult. Everybody's going to have a full head of steam, or not quite a full head of steam like they would on lap 2 coming into turn 1. That's going to be the real difficult moment, but everybody is going to have to find their way through turn 1 here. Everybody's going to have a different braking zone. It's going to be tough to get all 38 cars through turn 1, but it's certainly going to be possible. We saw them do it at Okayama last week. It all fell apart at turn 4 instead, but that's going to be the place I'm watching for.
Yeah, me as well. And speaking of track conditions here, good track conditions, about 74 degrees Fahrenheit out on track. not a whole lot of wind, only about 3 miles an hour, so you really couldn't ask for better conditions to be running here at Daytona. Absolutely perfect. And as someone who was in Florida just a few days ago, I can tell you that it is nothing like this pretty as it is in the real world. It is very, very hot there right now, and we hope all of our viewers from Florida right now are hunkering down and you are in safety, because obviously we know the hurricane is barreling towards the Florida coast. But as for the race today, we focus in because the pace car pulls off down pit lane, giving control of the field over to Adam Brockway, and Brockway gets on the loud pedal early as we go racing here in Daytona. Look at that jump. Call it 4 or 5 car lengths as they go. A little bit of side-by-side further back in the field there, but it looks like Diaz is going to be able to hold that out. Frias going to hold on there in the McLaren as they go around. A little bit of side-by-side farther back in the pack right now, but it looks like everybody getting through at least the first corner relatively easy. Still a little bit more side-by-side in the back there as they go. That's Jaquez and Bertium. A little bit of side-by-side, and we've got cars off into the grass.
Louis Grulon, I think that's Jerome Bertium, or it's Frankie Arvello. One of the PRL BMWs ends up in the grass. I think somebody just got too wide on the exit of the first couple of corners, and you can't slow it down to the grass. Another BMW, Nicholas Collender in the background, also having trouble on lap 1. It didn't come at the pinch point of turn 1 again. It happened a little bit later. Cold tires, heavy GT4 cars, they always like to punish you for those little mistakes on lap 1.
Yes, indeed, they do, but hopefully by the time they get up onto the banking here, those tires will be up to temperature and we'll be able to be racing at full bore. But we've got another car around. That's the number 44 of Garreau falling on down through the order. I also potentially see a problem there for Mike Griffith falling down through the order. So that tricky turn out of the infield causing all kinds of problems.
Michael Diaz is trying to stick with Adam Brockway here, but Brockway broke the draft a little bit. He snaked down the straight. Diaz was able to bring down the gap a little bit, but I think that was just a little bit of grunt work by the BMW, if anything. Through the bus stop, though, much, much stronger. You can see all the differences as everybody tries to figure it out for the first time. Side by side through the bus stop is always difficult, especially on lap 1. I didn't think that was going to end well in the middle of the field, but they got away with it somehow. Craziness for about 18th position here, and the Porsche is going to back out to the back of this line smartly after almost dying in the bus stop.
And that tells me he may have a little bit of a slowdown he's got to deal with, but here's Frias trying to be able to get around Bachelard right now, and that McLaren going to dive down into turn 1. Contact, though, with Francis Castillo-Romero. A little bit of a bump and run, and that McLaren's going to try to make it work through the S's here. They're going to go side by side, and the number 100 there of Bachelard's going to try to take advantage as well. The BMW fights back as they go down into the International Horseshoe. Oh, talk about brave on the binders there for Castillo-Romero. That was a great move.
Yeah, Francis saw red there. That was the braking zones meeting in the middle that I talked about. Marvin Frias just a little bit too late in the brakes. Francis Castillo-Romero maybe a little bit early, but I'd say fairly normal for that BMW on the brakes into turn 1, and they just met in the middle. Frias didn't back out of it. That's normally the expected thing to do in the Precision Racing League. If you do push a driver out of the way like that, you're expected to back out of it, or else you're at risk of a penalty if you don't get the position back, but I don't think they'll be too worried about that. Francis was able to get it back the old-fashioned way, and they will go back normal, and hopefully Marvin avoids further bumpers in the future. But here's Frankie Arvello. He was the driver who went off in that horseshoe on lap 1. It's been a night of drivers driving their way through the field, and we've got another one with Frankie in the BMW.
Yeah, we're going to have to see what he is able to do. That we follow on him right here up at the front of the field. Brockway, oh, as that's the number 65 there of Hassett getting turned around there. The Mercedes on the exit of the infield section. That is such a tricky portion of track. Changing track conditions, changing banking, changing track surface. You have got to be absolutely perfect to be able to get that right.
Do have to be perfect, and these GT4 cars are so hard to save. Once you just get a little bit of oversteer, especially through that final corner, it's going around. You're not going to be able to recorrect it. You're not going to be able to save that car. It is going around, and there is nothing you can do about it. But Luckily for Hassett, he was kind of at the back of the train already, so he's not going to lose too much. He's going to be able to get back in his own race and start recovering. Another driver who's driving his way through the field, Justin Ream. We mentioned how he had a disappointing qualifying. Oh my goodness, and there's a huge crash on the front straight. Oh my goodness.
Massive crash. Multiple cars upside down as they cross over the start-finish line. That's the number 7 I see involved in it. That's Bitsone, Brown Park, multiple drivers on their lid. Oh my goodness.
I don't think I've ever seen that big of a crash in a PRL GT4 race or in any PRL road course race for that matter. That was massive, and there's more trouble in the background. I think Frankie Arvello has been turned around again in the same place he got turned around on lap 1, and he's not beached, I don't think. He's just waiting for everybody to go by. But this is chaos. It's a chaotic race to be in the middle of the field tonight.
It's a very chaotic race to be in the middle of the field, but up at the front of the field right now, it's getting a little bit closer between Diaz and Castillo-Romero as they run. The twin BMWs working their way through NASCAR 2 right now. Is this going to be a little bit of a move here from Francis Castillo-Romero as he gets ready to dive his way down to the inside? No, he's going to lift off there a little bit, let his teammate hold that out as they try to chase down the Aston Martin number 42 of Adam Brockway directly up ahead of them. Working their way now out at the bus stop. That was a great run there for Michael Diaz. Let's go back, though, and check out what happened here on the start-finish straightaway.
Not clear, Luis Barazza, not clear, and that is just what kicked everything off. Liam Park, I need to watch Liam Park again because I was just focused on Barazza and Chase Brown making their way through, and then suddenly Liam Park is barreling in and he's going upside down. But up front, it's almost just as crazy. We're going 3 wide for the lead.
Bachelard trying to make it work around the outside. He's going to have to fight the 2 BMWs there to make it work. 3 wide down into turn 1. A little bit of side-by-side contact, but Bachelard with the move of the century, able to get that done. My goodness. Car off in the grass there. I believe that's Justin Ream. Where did Justin Ream come from? He's up 9 positions.
And now he's up into P5. Another position for him. An incredible drive forward. And frankly, the move that I was most impressed with in that whole deal was Michael Diaz backing out of 3 wide into turn 1. So he found a second break to be able to back out of 3 wide. And he's thinking championship after winning last week, after proving that he's going to be a championship contender. He thought about his survival for the next 33 minutes of this race. He backed out of it and he lives to fight another day. And they might have not done that if he elected to stay in the middle of 3 wide between Romero and Bachelard.
Discretion proving the better part of valor there for him, as now it looks like Brockway's beginning to pull a little bit of a lead here, but 0.6 of a second at Daytona is next to nothing with the impact of the draft around here. A little bit further back in the pack. Let's go ahead and take a look here. This is on board with Bissonette. Oh, look at,
Yeah, I don't know if Vincent hit the brake pedal there. I think he was just trying to gas it through the grass, and unfortunately, that's where the cars were coming to. And Liam Park just had nowhere to go. The fact that he flipped was kind of a freak thing with the physics there, but huge accident at the back of the field. That's going to be another one for the knocked highlight reel at the end of this season, because I have not seen that big of a crash in the GT4s, I think, and more trouble in the middle of the field. Kyle Kammer was leading that train, and he's messed up the bus stop.
Yeah, going very, very slowly there. Not entirely sure what happened. We've got a little bit of side-by-side up front here between Castillo Romero and Bachelard. Bachelard, does he want to make this 3 wide again? No, but it's going to be a move down to the inside there for Francis Castillo Romero. Diving down to the inside of Adam Brockway. Is he going to be able to make that work? Feeds out that Aston Martin just a little bit, and that's going to work out a wonder. But here comes the sister Aston Martin trying to fight back. And don't forget about Michael Diaz there, maybe looking around the outside. A little bit of contact there between Brockway and Bachelard, but they are able to keep it going, and everybody clean and green. Justin Ream, though, fighting with Michael Diaz, trying to get his way up forward. I think Ream may be a little bit boxed in, though, as they run their way through the kink. He's going to keep it out there, running onto the rumble strips, still side-by-side with Diaz, diving into the corner. Ream trying to get a little bit of leeway there. Contact again. Diaz goes out wide, and Ream is on by.
Ream squeezed him out a little bit there. I think he just expected Michael Diaz to back out of that entirely, and Michael said, no, I'm trying to go around the outside here. I have a right to the outside. He just gets driven off the road, though, and he's now at the complete back of this train. but that's not the worst position in the world to be right now. He can save a lot of fuel. Everybody in the top 7 is still together. This is road course pack racing like we've never seen before in the GT4s. Patrick Bachelard's trying to pass below the yellow line. It's all going crazy. Maybe it's not the worst place to be in the back of this train for Diaz.
Yeah, I think here at this point, just trying to hold off a little bit, trying to back out of it and not let this come into the massive battle that we're seeing may be the best way forward. I think if he is maybe able to just hold on a little bit and maybe save a little bit of fuel, but I'll tell you who's not waiting around. That's Patrick Bachelard. We've already seen him move 3 positions up on the day, almost giving a bump draft to Francis Castillo-Romero as they come on to the start-finish straight here into the tri-oval. Is Bachelard going to try to poke his nose out, or is he just going to continue giving that bump draft? He's going to look to the outside. Is he going to make that work later on the binders? He's got to watch out from behind because Brockway is getting interested as well.
Patrick, Justin Ream gets turned by Frias into turn 1. Michael Diaz again has to avoid a spun car. But Frias and Ream tried to go side by side. I don't know if Ream pinched him down or Frias moved up a little bit, but with how packed up everybody was being, that was only a matter of time until somebody was going to come to blows. And unfortunately, the recovery driver of the race is the driver who gets turned around.
Yeah, certainly was there, and that's going to demote Ream all the way down into 7th place. He's going to be a little bit out of the touch of the pack here. May have to work together. Whoa, that was very close between Bachelard and Brockway, almost pinching him down there and causing another incident as they run. But now the question's going to be, is if Bachelard is going to try to make another move here, if he's going to be a little bit more cautious like we saw him on that last lap. Takes a wider line there coming out of the infield section and then ducks back down onto the yellow line, trying to take the fastest way from point A to point B.
See if he tries to go below the yellow line again down the back straight here. I don't know if I would describe Patrick Bachelard's strategy as cautious right now. I think he wants the lead desperately. Francis Castillo-Romero did too. That's why he took it. And it's an interesting diversity of strategies, because I think what Adam Brockway is doing right now is he's just hanging out, saving a little bit of fuel. He's thinking about the long game, as we always do in these GT4 races. If you're just hanging behind these two as they continue to fight, you're not going to lose touch with them on the straights. You might be able to save that little bit of fuel, and then once pit stop time comes in what, 8 to 15 minutes or so, you're going to have that advantage. You might have an insurmountable lead that nobody's going to be able to catch back up to. That's what won so many GT4 races last season. It's great to lead the pack, but that might not be the place you want to be.
It may not be the place you want to be, but I'll tell you exactly where Patrick Bachelard wants to be, and that's out at the lead of the race. He tries to throw a move there around the outside of Francis Castillo-Romero, but that's not going to play out for him. Brockway thinking about maybe trying to come underneath them there through the S's, but that's not going to hunt as they go. They've got to be a little bit careful. If they continue to duke it out like this and really fight with each other, this is going to bring Jaquez and Frias right back into this battle. You can see the two of them there behind, and right behind them, that is going to be Justin Ream and Michael Diaz as well. They have got to be careful. I have got to think here at this point, Joey, you want to start working together as much as possible and not be fighting like this, because that's just going to be costing you time.
You would think, but unfortunately in these applications in the race, the logic and the optimal strategies, they don't always work out when you've got 3 drivers from 3 different teams, unfortunately, all trying to fight for the same position. I think Brockway, like I said, he's doing the smart thing right now. He's trying to make sure that he's not fighting with Bachelard, letting Romero get away, at least in this little micro battle we've got going here, but Bachelard and Romero, they're fighting tooth and nail for this lead. They're going to continue slowing each other down, which is good news for the racing product, I think, because we're going to get Jaquez back here in probably only a lap or two, and Frias and Diaz and Ream and maybe even Johnny Luna and Arangua and Tremblay. They're all catching up in the back of this train. We're gonna be packed up, I think, until the pit cycle splits everything up again.
Yeah, I think you're right, but look at that number 100 really closing in behind as here he comes. Little bit of a bump draft, a little bit of NASCAR style here at Daytona as they work their way out of NASCAR 4, coming past the setting sun there. Does Bachelard decide to poke his nose out, or is this all going to be just trying to see what it is? Again, he's going to poke his nose to the outside. Here comes Brockway thinking about a move to the outside potentially. They're going to be single file, though, as they dive down into turn 1. But look at that. Jaquez, Frias, Diaz, Ream, they are all starting to close in behind on this battle still. A big battle starting to play itself out between 4th and about 7th places. We've got more contact coming down into turn 1.
Drew Lidke, it's a bad day to be a Mercedes. It's a bad day to be Drew Lidke's Aston Martin, too. I think he wiped out Artie Mercedes in the Mercedes. Let's see what happened. That's Artie behind, but it's in front of him where everything goes down. Artie tried to make it around, tried to fit through the gap, didn't work. But the 32 of Anthony Dring and Drew Lidke make contact in turn 1. Just kind of met in the middle. Nobody had anywhere to go, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's what can happen sometimes. To bring a little bit too much speed down into that corner, you pick up a little bit of understeer when the cars just drift out to the outside, and that is absolutely a death knell when you're coming down into turn 1. Such a high-speed, tricky corner as that. We focus in here on that number 121 as he continues to work his way around here after that incident. A little bit of a battle there with the Porsche there behind him of Telez. As here we go, back up at the front of the field. Things get a little bit spicy as that's Bachelard thinking about a move down into the bus stop.
Yeah, I was impressed by Bachelard. I was starting to compliment him. He backed out into turn 1. He didn't fight it. He bump drafted Romero, pushed him forward, then backed out for the sake of the train, and now we're back to fighting tooth and nail for every position and slowing each other down to the bus stop, but it's entertaining and it's bringing everybody back in. Adam Brockway, though, still in the catbird seat here, just riding 3rd in line. You can see as he approaches the back of both of these drivers, there's the lift. He backs off. He's saving that critical amount of fuel. Romero lifts early as well. I think he's doing a little bit of lift and coast into the braking zone, but Brockway's able to do that and lift and coast on the straight because of how much he's able to check up. Romero might be saving a little bit of fuel in this lead, but Adam Brockway, right now, after this pit cycle ends, I'm concerned for the rest of the drivers in this train because Brockway is going to be saving liters and liters of fuel right now.
Well, but Brockway is going to have something else differently to deal with now is that we have that full gaggle of cars that was coming up behind him with Jaquez, Frias, Diaz, and Ream. They have now caught up. They are all running within about 2 seconds of the leader here, and that means we are going to have a mega draft train coming through NASCAR 1 and 2. So this is no longer a fight just ahead for Brockway where he can stay back and save that fuel. He's got to be watching out for behind him as well, and I got to think that's going to change his strategy around a little bit.
He's going to be hoping that he doesn't have to change his strategy because Jaquez and Frias are going to do the same thing as him, but that's always the thing that you can't rely on. And Jaquez and Frias weren't here last week. They are new to the PRL, and they're making their season debut 1 race late. Brockway, of course, didn't make it very far at Okayama. He got taken out on lap 1, but he still knows the drivers you can trust. And that's not to say Frias and Jaquez aren't trustworthy racing drivers to be around, but you just don't know that. You haven't raced around them. You don't know what they're going to be like. You're just going to hope that they're going to do what's optimal for you, and frequently drivers disagree about what to do on track. Luckily for him, into the bus stop looked fairly straightforward. Jaquez not going for anything crazy, but into turn 1, we're going to see Bachelard, I'm sure, go for the lead again. We'll see if Jaquez goes for the podium to the outside of Brockway. At least for now, he's backing out of it, and there he goes.
Noah's Ark coming down into the corner there. A great run for Jaquez. He may be able to get another position out of this, more than just 3rd as they dive down to the corner. Bachelard trying to hold out around the outside. Castillo Romero giving him a little bit of a push out there, but Bachelard finally, his efforts coming to fruition. He is into the lead of the race, and here comes Brockway looking to the outside late on the binders. My goodness, Castillo Romero back into the lead.
How? How? That's the only word I have. How did that BMW stop? I'm dumbfounded. Francis Castillo Romero must have a 3rd brake or something. That is insane. I thought he was just gonna go barreling off into the horseshoe there. That's insane. I'm lost for words.
I'm right there with you, Joey. I think somebody needs to put a camera down into his wheel well and see if he has a McLaren-style third brake there, because that should not have been possible by the rules of physics. But somehow Francis Castillo-Romero able to get that to work. My goodness. But now as they work their way again on through NASCAR 1 and 2, bringing themselves around here. Everybody calming down a little bit here at this point. I'll tell you what, Bachelard again closing in behind on Castillo-Romero. Are we going to see a move down into the bus stop? I think Bachelard thought about it, backed out of it. By the way, we have had our first pit stop of the day. Johnny Luna coming in on lap 8, getting 18 seconds worth of service. That is the first pit stop here, and that fired off well before the halfway point of this race.
Bachelard is going to be very concerned right now because Francis Castillo-Romero has proven that he has the opposite of he has above human braking abilities into turn 1, into the horseshoe. Justin Ream's going to bring it down pit road behind. He's going to try and get out of this gaggle, but watch turn 1 again. Patrick Bachelard might have the nose ahead, but under braking, Francis Castillo-Romero is unbeatable. Jacques is actually going to get to the inside of Bachelard now, and Francis Castillo-Romero, he has 6 cars hounding him, and every single time he still manages to come out on top.
Side by side here between Jacques and Bachelard, as well as Brockway and Diaz. Who's going to come out on top? Looks like Bachelard's going to be okay. Great run out of the corner there for Adam Brockway in the Aston Martin. He's going to be thinking about trying to be able to go to the outside there at Jacques as they run down through the kink. A little bit terrifying to go too wide through there, but he's going to try to make it work down into the Western Horseshoe. Earlier on the binders, though, is Brockway, but going wide is Jacques, and that is going to be positioned back over to the number 42. Slots right ahead. Good heads up there from the YS Motorsports driver.
This has just been one of the most smart drives I've ever seen in the GT4 series or in any PRL series. Adam Brockway is always a conservative driver. Jacques gets a little bit loose in the final corner. He's going to fall to the end of this train. He's struggling with something. He's currently trying to run the apron and the transition there. He eventually gets back in line, but that was odd. But as I was saying about Adam Brockway, he's always a consistent driver. He's not a driver you really see making huge mistakes all the time. There's occasions, as there are with every driver, but he's always smooth, and we're seeing that right now. He's backing out of the low percentage moves. Jacques tried to make the move and then completely overcooked it. Brockway kept a cool head, got the position back. It's been a masterful drive for him, and he's got 19 more laps to keep it up and hope nobody else wipes him out, but it has been a very calculated drive tonight for Adam.
Yeah, very calculated drive as we do tick down under 19 minutes to go, under 20 minutes to go rather. So the halfway point here in this race, and we've got another pitter, Francis Castillo-Romero and Jacques, both coming down into pit lane. So the first of our leaders starting off here in the pit cycle, but up at the front of the field, it is now Bachelard in the position that he has coveted for so long, finally able to lead this race, but he's not going to have it all to himself as Adam Brockway, Michael Diaz, and Marvin Frias are going to be right there behind him.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect Adam Brockway to really fight him for this lead, but Michael Diaz is a very hungry driver. He's trying to drive his way through the field after Ream forced him off the road. Michael, I'm sure, is also thinking about the fuel game. He's thinking about the grand scheme of things in the pit cycle, but he kind of wants that lead back. He also wants second back, so if the chance comes to send it 3 wide with Brockway and Bachelard, I think he'll probably go for it. But these are those critical fuel numbers in the pits. 19.2 seconds in the box for Romero, 19.6 for Jacques, 19.4 for Arangua. That's about what we're expecting to see, but do your calculations in your head when Bachelard and Brockway and Diaz and the rest come down soon, because it's going to be close.
Yeah, it's going to be very close. A little bit of a narrower line there off of the infield for Bachelard. Brockway going to be following in behind. Diaz, Frias losing a little bit of touch off the back of this. He's going to run about 7/8 tenths of a second behind off the back of Michael Diaz. Now that's still going to be an effective draft range, but it's going to be very, very tricky to be able to keep up that close behind. Brockway backing off a little bit before they dive down into the mall bus stop as they all concertina together there. Diaz working his way through, trying to see if he's able to get a better run there in that BMW. The lone BMW up in this leading group as it is 2 Aston Martins up at the front of the field, and then Frias there back in the back with that McLaren. And the question's going to be, is there going to be a response now from any of these drivers? Bachelard, Brockway, Diaz, Frias, will any of them come down pit lane? Adam Brockway over the radio, I think that is an indication that he is going to be coming down pit lane. All 3 come down, all 4 come down. Are they able to get it wound up in time? That may have been a little close there for Bachelard, but I think he just barely got it.
Another place that always rewards practicing your pit entries. There's critical tenths. There's sometimes even a full second or two that you can get from just outbraking people in the Daytona pit entry. And now it's a race off pit road. Justin Ream actually leads the train of people who have pitted. He jumped Romero. Remember, Justin was like 6th or 7th in line. He was the earliest of anybody to come in, and he has won that battle. But now we see where everything merges out. He's going to have to work with Francis Castillo-Romero here down the front straight. Does Adam Brockway have anything? Did he do the fuel saving? I thought he did. He might have, but it's still a long stop, 20.1 seconds. I think he might have actually overfueled the car there.
Diaz, the one coming out the best for wear there with an 18.8 second stop. That's one of the quicker ones we've seen on the day. Now the question is where is Justin Ream and the rest of that field going to come out behind Francis Castillo-Romero, able to get around Ream as they go down into turn 1. Here they come. It looks like that's going to be Castillo-Romero trying to be able to put the move on Adam Brockway. He's going to be able to get it done. Justin Ream now trying to move his way up into 3rd place over Adam Brockway. They're going to be side by side as they come down out of the International Horseshoe. Again, we've seen Ream do this before. Is he going to try to take this too wide through the kink? Yes, he is. That's going to set him up on the inside line here as they go down into the Western Horseshoe. And dare I say, and yes I do, that's going to be Justin Ream holding on to 3rd.
He's going to be charging forward. He had exactly the same time in the pit box, essentially, as Francis Castillo-Romero. 19.1 versus 19.2, but you saw him get the lead initially. You see him in contention for the lead now because he came in early, because he got out of the train. He wasn't in the fights there. He was running his own laps, and it worked out very, very well for him. And now he does have a chance at the win of this race. He's got to be careful, though. Romero is within draft range of Diaz. He should be able to close that up, but that all depends on nailing this bus stop and making sure that Ream doesn't fight him too hard while he's trying to bring this gap down.
Yeah, exactly. That is what this is all going to be about. It's the give and take here. It's not trying to be too greedy, not trying to be too aggressive. You've got to remember you still have 15 minutes left to go in this race. And as we've seen so many times here at Daytona, it is going to come down to the last lap. And rest assured, drivers like Ream, drivers like Francis Castillo-Romero, Diaz, Brockway, all of these drivers that are running up in the top 4 right now, they're going to be counting back and trying to figure out what position they want to be in when that white flag flies.
Luckily, the gap has come down here instantly. Romero was in the draft range, so we don't have to worry about Michael Diaz driving off into the sunset. Now we just have to think about how can Michael Diaz hold off the latest breaker in all of braking in Francis Castillo-Romero. Are we going to see a masterclass into the horseshoe this time? I think he's going to be too far back to send it, but if you're side by side with Francis into the horseshoe on the last lap, better get your braking foot ready because you're going to have to stop that car very, very late.
And again, we see the continuation of that battle between Brockway and Ream as they went down into the International Horseshoe. Ream going to be able to get ahead, but about a little bit of a move there down to the inside of Francis Castillo-Romero going down into the Western Horseshoe, but Castillo-Romero able to cover that off quite well, and now they're going to come out of that all in single file order. Bachelard about 1.3 seconds behind them. He's going to have a little bit of work to do to try to hustle his way back up forward and close down on the rest of this field as they bring their way back out onto the tri-oval into NASCAR 1. Diaz holding onto a gap here of about 4 or 5 car lengths right now as they run. Everybody else hugging onto that yellow line there, hugging onto the apron the fastest way around the corner as they go. Are they going to be able to do this? A little bit of a poke to the outside there for Justin Ream. I don't think we're going to see any heroics here coming down into the bus stop, and indeed everybody stays in single file order as they work their way in and out of Le Mans.
Driver I'm thinking the most about right now is Adam Brockway, because his strategy of driving conservatively, of lift and coast, of saving fuel, evidently it has done nothing for him because he still spent longer in the pit box than anybody else. As I said, I think he frankly might have overfueled the car, or he just didn't do a good enough job of fuel saving, unfortunately. But either way, he finds himself in the same position he was before the pit cycle, and he's got to actually fight his way forward now. He's got to do some overtakes, and there we go. There's the new Adam Brockway. This Adam Brockway sends it 3 wide into turn 1. Francis Castillo-Romero is the one who's going to back out for his own survival, and Adam Brockway takes the lead for a second at least.
Takes it in, but he takes it in too deep, and that's going to be Michael Diaz right back up to the point. But here comes Ream with a good charge. Not going to be able to capitalize on it. Oh, little later onto the binders there, poking that Porsche's nose down to the inside of the YS Motorsports Aston Martin. He's not going to be able to get it done, but Ream has shown aggression here, and don't look out, or do look out, because in 5th place right now, Patrick Bachelard closing in behind. That other Aston Martin is into this equation as well, and we have seen that number 100 be, dare I say, very, very aggressive in their charge up to the front of the field.
And do not count out Jaquez or Johnny Luna either, because these 5 have all found each other. I'm not saying they're going to take each other out. I'm not saying there's going to be a 5-car pileup, but they're going to be fighting for the next 12 minutes, and they're all going to be slowing each other down. So this could very well become a 7-car battle again. Marvin Frias, unfortunately, probably not going to join the fray. He did not have a very good pit stop. I don't quite know why. He was in the box for 21 seconds, but that's not that abnormal. He's just found himself 13 seconds behind this train. So at most, it's going to be a 7-car battle. Brockway backs out of putting up the inside of Diaz. So at least for now, we're not going to be slowing anybody down. But if 3-wide Brockway goes for that again, and he keeps going for it for the next 5 laps to the end of this race, don't count Jaquez or Luna out.
Yeah, very, very true, but I also think Jaquez and Luna are going to have to play nice and play together, maybe do a little bit of bump drafting to be able to close in, because that gap is 5 seconds and expanding here at this point. Break off here into a little bit of couplets as they come into the tri-oval again. That's going to be Diaz hugging down onto the inside line. Brockway looking to the outside here as they cross over the stripe. Brockway going to try that move again. We saw him do it last time, trying to be later on the binders and sweep around the outside, but he carried a little bit too much speed in last time. Does he carry a little bit too much speed in this time? Looks like he's got it a little... Oh, that got a little bit hairy as Brockway getting all kinds of sideways, but somehow miraculously being able to hold on to second. Now it's his turn to be later onto the binders on Diaz. They're side by side as they exit the International Horseshoe.
Diaz left the door open and Brockway took advantage, but they're going to have to go side by side again. Brockway goes a little bit too far to the right and clips the grass on the exit of the outside of the straight. But side by side through the kink, still side by side, and he finally has to back out of it. Michael Diaz takes the lead back again, but critically at the line there. What's most important, because we've got to think about the actual finish of this race. If that was the last lap, Brockway would have won this race. He beat Diaz to the line, so that might be the best position to be in. You might want to be in second, coming out of the bus stop, coming to the line. And I think Brockway's just rehearsing that last lap right now and hoping that he can stay in second.
Exactly what we were talking about a little bit earlier, is timing that approach, counting back from that white flag lap, trying to figure out where you want to position yourself. I'll tell you what, though, I don't think Brockway's got any intention of trying to wait around, because he's going to try to go around the outside here, going down into Le Mans. Does Diaz let him have it? They're going to be side by side. Diaz backing off a little bit, but they're going to be side by side on the exit of Le Mans now. There they go, and Brockway able to sneak barely ahead of Michael Diaz, but look at that fan out behind. Bachelard trying to make it work. Ream trying to see if there's anything to be done as well. Whoa, almost a little bit of contact there. Bump draft between Diaz and Brockway as they come to the line here with under 10 minutes to go.
I hope you have your spotters turned on, gang, because we don't want to see what happened earlier in the race down the tri-oval here, but it's 3 wide for second. Brockway is in the most safe position right now, and eventually everybody has to back out of it. Francis Castillo-Romero just kind of riding onto the scene here as Bachelard and Ream are the only ones going side by side, and they all fan out again, one by one by one by one. It's very respectful racing again for everybody in this top 5, and that's great. When you have everybody packed together like this, sometimes you think, man, there's probably going to be somebody hitting somebody, but I want all 5 of these drivers still around at the end of this race, and they're doing their best to race aggressively, but they're all preserving each other, and that's great. You got to preserve yourself to be in with a chance at the end of the race, and I think they all likely will be.
Yeah, I think you're right as well. And crucially there, Jaquez and Luna not been able to gain any time on them. It still holds about 5.5 seconds as they run. Got to give some credit there, though, to Francis Castillo-Romero. He was looking a little bit aggressive on Patrick Bachelard as Bachelard was trying to look this way and that on Justin Ream, trying to see if there was an advantage to be had. Now, as they come down into the tri-oval through NASCAR 1, Brockway holding on to a lead here of about 4.5 tenths of a second. Let's call that about 6 car lengths in between the two as they they go, working their way out of turn 2, hugging down to the inside of the track before they move back over to driver's right, breaking down into Le Mans. We're not going to see any of that side-by-side here this time around. There as they go down into the corner, able to get things woed up and get onto the loud pedal. Everybody through Le Mans nice and cleanly. Want to give credit here to the entire field. We oftentimes seen slowdown penalties coming through that corner, and that is not happening here today. Knock on your patented RaceSpotTV block of wood if you have it, because here comes Diaz around the outside there of Brockway, and he is going to be ahead by the time they get to the timing stripe, maybe trying to force him down the road a little bit here, and here comes Ream. This is going to be 3 wide going down into turn 1. Who's going to be able to come out on the right side of this? It looks like Brockway is going to be able to hold it out. That's going to be Bachelor trying to make things happen up the inside. A little bit of contact as Francis Castillo-Romero and Justin Ream get into each other. Are they going to be able to sort themselves out? They're still going to be side by side as they work their way down into the corner right now. Can Bachelard pick up any of the pieces? Ream trying to hold it out right there, forcing out Francis Castillo-Romero. Bachelard trying to pick up the position in 5th place.
And Francis Castillo-Romero's in the worst position right now. He needs to make 2 or 3 passes to actually get up into contention for this win. He has gotten by Bachelard now. If he can get it slowed down for the second horseshoe, he is able to, but he's able to get it slowed down later than Bachelard is, and Bachelard gets back by. So he's back in his 5th position in line, which is probably the worst place to be right now, because you have to make moves for position. You have to advance your way forward in the train, and that's been hard to do when it's been Brockway and Diaz up at the head of it, switching around. Lots of drivers have tried to make it 3 wide. They've tried to break up the duet up top, but Ream, Bachelard, and Romero, it hasn't happened. It's been all Diaz and Brockway.
All right, Joey, I'm going to turn you over here to driver expert. Where in this line do you want to be when that white flag comes out? Where in this line? What position do you want to be in on the exit of this very corner when we race to the checkered flag?
I want to be Michael Diaz right now. Justin Ream might be getting the double draft, but I don't think that's going to be enough coming to the line to win 3 wide, especially considering that Brockway and Diaz, I'm sure, are going to be beating and banging to the line, trying to block each other. But let's watch this now. Let's simulate this as if this is the last lap. Diaz is going to wait a little bit. He actually waited a little bit too long there because Diaz was able to get to the outside of him. He wouldn't have been clear to the outside of Brockway. So that's another thing you have to take into consideration on the final lap. You don't want to make the move too early, but when there's 3 other drivers hounding you behind you, you need to make that move early because you might get boxed in. Bachelard's going to get boxed off the track here by Ream. It's almost a good save, and Bachelard loses it. Couldn't save it on the rejoin. Bachelard loses out. He's not going to be in the fight for this win.
And then there were 4 up at the front of the field. Brockway, Diaz, Ream, Castillo-Romero. That is it with under 5 minutes to go here at Daytona. Lap times clocking in at about 1:52 or so. We'll have to do that math back to figure out exactly how many laps we've got left to go here. But 4 drivers here looking to be in contention, and I've got to think that's going to make things very, very interesting. We have seen 4 wide finishes coming across at Daytona. It is possible, and so that may mean that we may be in for the finish of a century. Although I do have to say, Francis Castillo-Romero looks like he's dropped back just a little bit. Let's call that about 8-9 car lengths in between the 2 as they run. We ride on board right now with Michael Diaz closing in behind. We jump back to Justin Ream. He sits in the popcorn position, watching Diaz and Brockway. Maybe a little bit of a bump draft. We saw that on the last lap as they came through the tri-oval. Diaz maybe experimenting a little bit with just how much speed they can pick up. Maybe he's scared about the attack from Justin Ream from behind and wants to try to pull a little bit of an advantage if they can.
That's critical for Diaz there. That is telling you his strategy right now. He gets out of the draft, actually, to time this run. Coming to the line, he's going to back in now, get that draft, actually bump Brockway a little bit. So I don't think this is a simulation of the final lap, actually, for Diaz. I think he is just trying to preserve their duet at the head of the field. That's not an attempt to take the lead for Diaz. Now it is. He gets to the inside of Brockway, pushes him up high a little bit. Justin Ream finds a gap to the inside. He's going to have to be early on the brakes, though, to back out of that. Brockway's still going to hang on, though, but he opened the door to Diaz. He opens it again. He goes 2 wide in the exit of turn 1. Still able to hang on, though. Diaz is still going to be second.
Diaz still going to be second. Ream taking a dive up to the inside there of Michael Diaz, going down into the International Horseshoe, the 912 Porsche, able to get that move done easy as you please. Now it's going to be Castillo Romero thinking about a little bit of a move on his BMW compatriot. That's not going to play itself out. They get themselves single file by the time they get down into the kink right now, working their way into the Western Horseshoe. Still the two BMWs trying to scrap it out there just a little bit. Castillo Romero trying to run a little bit around the outside. Ream catching a little bit of the grass there. That's going to slow him down and grow the gap to about 2 car lengths, but they bunch up here as they come down out of the infield section, getting onto the loud pedals here. 2.5 minutes left to go. I think we may be coming to the white flag here this time by.
We definitely are. Diaz is trying to get by Ream. The gap isn't quite there. Ream has to do some self-preservation and open that door up so he doesn't get turned through the banking. But Michael Diaz is getting desperate here. Justin Ream wasn't able to get into the draft of Brockway. Now Brockway moves up to help Ream a little bit. Diaz is going to get back up into second. I was going to say that Justin Ream had broken up the Armada here. He'd broken up the Brockway-Diaz duet, but he loses to Diaz almost instantly. I don't know how Diaz got by there, but he has. And now again, I think it is well and truly Brockway versus Diaz. Ream and Romero, their hopes right now are that Brockway and Diaz come to blows at some point on this final lap, because if they don't, they have been dominant. They've worked together by fighting each other so hard. We got one more time around to go here. It's going to be between them two if Ream can't do anything crazy.
Here comes Ream, though, looking to the outside of Diaz. He's got a nose ahead. They dive down into the corner for the last time here. This is the white flag lap at Daytona for the PRL GT4 Series. Ream lost a lot of time there. He's got to hold off a little bit from behind as Francis Castillo Romero gets a little bit interested. Ream dove down a little bit too late into the International Horseshoe, and he's going to lose a little bit more time. Let's call that gap about 4 or 5 car lengths now as they work their way through the kink, trying to find what it is. Brockway all over the back, Diaz all over the back of Brockway. They Constantina under braking there. Ream really late onto the binders into the Western Horseshoe. He's still going to be in this conversation, but Francis Castillo Romero seems like he's fallen off the back of this train. He's a full second back here at this point. That may be too far out of the equation.
He's just going to hope that the 3 ahead of him come into each other and he can pick up the pieces. But this is complicated for Diaz now. The Justin Ream has been able to close down that gap. It's not just him versus Brockway. He has another car who's going to box off some of his lines. Justin Ream is going to try and fight for second here. I don't think that's the optimal thing to do because Diaz has to get around Brockway. He forces his way out and he gets turned.
Oh my goodness, Ream and Brockway, Ream and Diaz getting into each other there, and that's going to set up what could have been a fantastic photo finish, coming to blows here on the back straight of Daytona. My goodness, my gracious. Diaz trying to limp around back home here, but that car has got to be pretty severely damaged. But up at the front of the field with a gap of about 1 second, it is Adam Brockway who is going to be able to bring this thing home. Oh my goodness, drama here on the last lap at Daytona for the PRL GT4 Fixed Series. And here comes Brockway to the flag, taking victory over Francis Castillo Romero. Is Diaz going to be able to limp that car home behind? Yes, he is. Oh my goodness gracious, and the battles are not done here, Joey.
Patrick Bachelard somehow is going to get a top 6 out of all of that, and the rest of the drivers still trying to bring it home for the last couple spots in the top 10, but Ream and Diaz, they were fighting for second, unfortunately. They weren't fighting for the win. They were too occupied trying to fight each other for that second place, and it all came to blows. They got into each other. They ruined each other's chances for the victory, and that is just, it's so disappointing, but it's so understandable. You're both trying to fight for the same thing. It's hard to think about the grand scheme of things on that final lap when you're all trying to move. And it didn't work out for him, and the best possible thing for Adam Brockway happened. That was probably the calmest he's been in those final couple of corners coming to the line.
And that was Tellez just able to inch ahead there of William Brennan. That gap 0.0 seconds as they run. Let's take a look at this replay. Joey, talk us through this.
Well, Justin Ream was trying to get by Diaz up on top, and Diaz couldn't clear himself. Eventually, he tried to force himself up there, and I think that just got... We can see it again here. There was a little bit of a left turn there from Justin Ream. I think he might have just gotten loose from the contact. I'm not going to say that was anything deliberate, but Michael Diaz couldn't get clear. He needed to get clear to fight for this win, but he was getting blocked in by Ream. That was a little bit of a deliberate move. I don't know if that was to turn Diaz or if it was just to get in line, but I'm sure Chief PRL Road Steward Arnaud Genet will have a look at that. But like I said, they were fighting for second, not fighting for the win, and Adam Brockway, who was in the lead, ended up with the win, probably most deservedly.
Indeed, and let's run you through that final finishing order here. As you heard us hoot and holler about, it was Adam Brockway able to take the victory there. Francis Castillo-Romero in second, and Michael Diaz coming home in third. It was Jaquez in fourth, and Johnny Luna, the earliest pit stopper there, able to come home in fifth place, up 11 positions on the day. Then it was Bachelard recovering from that spin to come home in sixth. Then Jean-Marc Tremblay, Matthew Miles, Matthias Arangua, and Darren Rutherford. Miles, by the way, your biggest mover on the day, up 18 positions. Then Gabriel Ganac, Kyle Kammer recovering from an early spin earlier in the race. Lipke there in 13th. Mulholland, Corey Clark, Marvin Freyes, William Brennan, Joshua Telez, Brent Pucari, and Jerome Bertiome. Unfortunately down in 20th. Not the day he was hoping for, having to recover from that incident down into the International Horseshoe off of lap 1. In 21st position, it was Nicholas Colander, followed by Dean Giroux, then Austin Harris and Stephen Hassett. Stacy Hunter came home in P25, followed by Doyle Lawrence. Justin Ream having to settle all the way back down for 24th position. It was Stephen Hassett who came home in 25th, followed by Doyle Lawrence and Stacy Hunter there in 27th. Some of these getting shuffled around here due to penalties, I can only assume. Then we had some drivers who ran into some trouble on the day. Anthony Drink, David Slee, Artie Mercedes, all finishing multiple laps down. Frankie Arvello, Chase Brown, Luis Barraza, Liam Park, Bissonnet, Griffith, and Brouillon there, all finishing down in the order. And well, we have got an interview here with, I'm sure, who is going to be the most happy driver on the day, Adam Brockway. Adam, that was some of the most incredible action I have seen in a long time there. 4 or 5 cars duking it out with each other. Talk to me about what that was like behind the wheel.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. It was definitely an exciting race. You know, I knew it was ultimately going to come down to the draft, and there wasn't going to be much room for error because everybody would just catch up. So I knew I had pace, especially in turn 1 and through the bus stop. And so coming out of the pits, I just decided to, you know, send it and take the lead. And the P2 and P3 were coming up through the bus stop, you know, and I figured they were going to catch me coming over the finish line, but they ended up, you know, making contact. So you hate to see it, though.
Yeah, certainly a little bit of a disappointing run. And so talk to me about what your strategy was going to be coming out of the bus stop. I mean, were you going to be planning on backing everybody up and just trying to give yourself the best run? Were you just going to kind of be hoping and maybe doing a little bit of weaving to try to break the draft? What were you thinking there coming into that last lap?
Honestly, I didn't think I was going to stay up front coming out of the bus stop. I think even the weave-in, as long as they take a straight line, they're just going to have a better run, and there's so much of a straight. So coming through that bus stop, I figured I was going to be settling P2, P3, honestly.
Clearly, you didn't have to do that, and picking up a win here on the day has got to feel good. Want to look ahead to next week. We go to a little bit of a bull ring in the form of the national circuit at Catalunya. How do you like your chances there? How do you think the Aston's going to do around that FIA Grade 1 circuit?
I'm not 100% honest. I haven't put any laps in there yet. So, you know, all this week, you know, I'm here in Florida, so I have to dodge the hurricane, and hopefully all is well. But once that passes through, hopefully get some laps in throughout the weekend and see how we can do next week.
We wish you all the luck in the world, Adam, and hope you and your family stay safe. I know that's a pretty scary thing coming on through. But as for today, who would you like to thank? Who makes this possible?
I definitely want to thank PRL for putting the series on. You know, it's definitely a great series. Thanks for you guys over at RaceSpot for the broadcast. And then also I'd like to do a big shout out to YS Motorsports for taking me on.
All right, well, Adam, thank you and congratulations once again on a very hard-fought victory here today.
Thanks, guys. You have a good night.
Right back at you, Adam. That was Adam Rockway, your victor here at Daytona. And Joey, it looks like you have caught up with third-place finisher Michael Diaz.
Well, Michael, you know, we got to ask about it. You and Justin Ream coming to the bus stop on the last lap. You guys came together. What happened from your perspective?
Well, first of all, you like my Max Verstappen impression?
I think so. Did you like your own Max Verstappen impression?
I loved it, man. 360 finish P3, I'll take it any day. But yeah, from my point of view, I got the clear for my spotter, so I just went to take the regular line so I could try to get a best exit on Adam. And then I felt my car like kind of hooked up to his, and I just lost the rear real quick. And then I was like fighting to get control of the car again. And I don't know, but watching the replay, it seems like he just drove into me on purpose. We'll talk it out and see what happened. But I can race like that just as well if he wants to. So we'll just see going on forward and into the season.
Well, speaking of the full season, I'm sure you're disappointed with the third. You wanted a chance for the win, but first and third to kick off this season, that's a pretty strong average, especially considering some of your rivals had worse days at Okayama. I asked you about the championship last week. It might have been a little bit too early, but you got to start thinking. If you can be this consistent for the rest of the year, you've got to be a big threat for this championship.
Well, hopefully I can finish every race. Like you said, 1-3 is a really good start. I was trying to aim for the win today, but it didn't happen, as you can see. But yeah, we'll just take it one race at a time as always and hope for the best results I can get.
All right, well, we wish you good luck, and we hope you don't have to do a Max Verstappen 360 to podium impression next week.
I hope so, but if I could do it and get a P1, it'll be awesome.
The old spin and win.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
It definitely would. We wish you good luck, and we'll see you. We'll probably see you next week. I can only imagine.
Yeah, I'll try to be here then. Well, anyways, thanks to you guys for broadcasting and my teammates, Jerome and Francis. You got a P2 today, which is awesome. And congrats to Adam on the win. He really deserved it today.
Certainly did. Michael Diaz, P3 this evening, DJ, and well, that was a chaotic race, and I don't think I have any more words to describe it. I think I'm ready to go to bed.
I have to agree with you there, and I'm even on Pacific Coast time. That one wore me out. But you heard us mention it there after the thrilling race that we had here today at Daytona. Next week, we will be at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, and that is going to be an absolutely incredible race, a complete change from what we saw here today, and that's going to be a fantastic race to be able to see, and that, again, will be next Monday, October 3rd, and that'll kick off about 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. But on behalf of all of us here at RaceSpot, including our director and producer behind the scenes, Hugo Luis, as well as myself, DJ Clark, and my co-commentator, Joey Tebben, here in the booth, it has been an absolute pleasure to bring you the racing action here today on PRL Monday nights. And until we see you on the track, thanks for watching.